Generation, the home of urban soul. In the beginning, there was morning radio.
I've never seen anything like this.
But now there is Radio Generations, the people's breakfast. Curious and bold, getting facts from the shadows.
That's what it is.
Now, as the city wakes and secrets stir, a bright new voice shines. The people's breakfast, your morning, your voice, your journey.
You got it locked.
Good morning.
Good morning, my neighbor.
Welcome to the home of hard truths and bold insights, Radio Generation.
That's very true. Welcome to the home of hard truths and bold insights. My name is Mung'ala Mbuvi. The time right now is exactly 2 minutes past 6 o'clock. How are you doing? I hope wherever you are, you enjoyed your weekend and you are ready for the new week and everything that it's coming with. As for me and my team here, of course, we are so excited. I hope I've not lied, by the way. City, good morning.
Good morning, sir.
I hope I have not lied on your behalf.
No, you haven't lied on my behalf.
Yeah, Patricia Wayua.
Yes, please.
A very good morning to you.
Good morning.
Uko namna gani?
Mimi niko shwari kabisa.
Okay.
Nashukuru, yeah.
I hope I've not also lied on your behalf.
You haven't.
So you had a good weekend.
Of course.
And you're looking forward to this amazing new week.
Yes. Unajua mwezi ushafika katikati.
Hey.
Yeah, this week by the will be mid-month.
Right.
Yeah, na mambo inakwenda mbio. Kimbi.
Speaking of which, by the way,
yeah.
15th ni Friday. Sindio?
Yes.
By the way, I saw a meme over the weekend, someone saying, how is it possible that we are on the 8th month of 2025, yet we just crossed over the new year 2 weeks ago? Of course, I got that joke, and I was like, yeah, to be honest, I feel like this year has been moving faster than any other year that we've lived through before.
I think it's because we have had a lot.
Kimbi.
Yeah. We have had a lot as a country, talk of political, economical, we just have had a lot. And that's the reason why time, of course, will fly, because most of the time you are concentrating on these political issues, you're concentrating on these economical hardships and so forth. So you tend to forget about time.
I don't know, City, do you feel like the year is in a rush, or for you, kila kitu iko tu sawa?
It's been doing this rush thing for quite some time.
Please kindly explain. I think I get it, but please, for clarity's sake.
You see, when time hangs heavy on your hand,
right?
Say you don't have a job, there aren't things pressurizing you to attend to them. Time seems to go very slowly. When there's a lot happening and there's a lot of demand on your time and on your resources, your time is fully occupied. So there is never enough day for the things you need to do. Just as you think you've started, you feel the day has ended and there's so much that hasn't been done. That is what gives the illusion that it's actually moving fast. The day is exactly what it's always been.
Yeah.
But it's you who's preoccupied with very many things, and you feel you needed more time to attend to them. That is the reality.
I mean, he has a point. To be honest, sometimes you feel like you do not. It's like some people have 26 hours and you feel like you have less than 24 hours, depending on, of course, what you're doing and what you're up to. So, kind of makes sense, actually.
When things are not going well, you'll be amazed at how long a day is. You actually feel, is this day not going to come to an end? Or when things that don't necessarily make your life better, make you feel happier happening, and they seem to follow each other, those days, we say, anecdotally speaking, are long days.
Yeah, long days,
very long days.
Yes. Yeah. So, if scientifically also, there's this thing about days getting longer and longer.
There are longer days and shorter days.
Yes. So, according to astrophysicists, when you wanasomanga hii maneno ya the cosmos, basically, they are telling us that at one point our days will be very, very long. Of course, it's in.
Do they mean day or do they mean time when there's daylight?
The time of the amount of time we have in the day, and also the amount of time we have in the night. So right now we have 24 hours in a day.
Yes.
But in a distant future, not right now, of course, not in our lifetime, but in another couple of maybe 1,000 or a million years, days will actually be very long. Not 24 hours, probably over 30.
What will have happened, or will they have changed the instruments for measuring the days?
No, it's just the way the earth rotates, and of course how it revolves around the sun. Those dynamics will change.
So if it changes, so what?
Nothing. It's just that you'll have like 30 hours of daylight and perhaps 30 hours of nighttime. Yeah.
So it's the light or the absence of it which will
Determines the day. Yes.
But there are parts of the world where we already see that. There are longer days. It can be 11 at night and the sun is still out there.
Yeah, but you see that, but the rotation of the earth and the how it revolves around the sun, and also how the sun moves across the cosmos. Right now, nothing much has changed, but a time is coming when we actually, you know, the earth is getting closer and closer to the center of the universe, eh? Yeah, so hii ni story mingi sana.
Sema tu ni kama the earth will be rotating much faster than it has. It
actually
has
much slower.
Or much slower, depending on
That's why
whatever
things
will be
long.
happening. Yeah.
All right, so today, what are we celebrating? Which day are we celebrating today?
Well, today we do not have a major day that we are observing, but we have this one World Lion Day. I think the UN has really been celebrating these animals.
Siku ya Simba.
Yes, sasa leo wanasema ni siku ya Simba, and of course it is dedicated to raise awareness about the conservation of lions, whose population wana feel kwamba it is drastically declining due to threats like the habitat loss, human wildlife conflict, poaching, illegal trade, and so forth.
Kumekuwa neo shida for a while now actually, and it's a concern actually. I think I saw a community sometime a few days ago, is it a few weeks ago, where the government had to settle, was it 6 billion or 2 billion? There's some amount of money they had to give to settle human wildlife conflict. So it's an ongoing problem, but there's nothing we can really do about it for now, because we live with animals. Yes, we have national parks, and of course a few animals like Simba watajipata tu. Unakumbuka wakati Rongai kulikuwa na shida ya Simba?
I remember, I remember, and actually I don't think hata kama imeisha. It's only that kuna some joke that watu weka kwa social media about those people living near the park there. There's some university around there, so kuna cartoon watu wana make kule kwa social media, like a student is stepping out, na kitu anakutana nacho nje ni masimba wakicheza pale nje.
Mimi mali wazazi wangu wanaishi karibu na
park.
No, not park. Kuna kwanga na fisi usiku. So you know, you'll always hear the way they laugh.
That's exactly how they laugh.
Yes.
So you will hear fisi usiku, and walevi pia huwa wanawoniwa to, you know, if you go out past a certain time, walk in groups in that area. So you're told walk in groups because you might encounter a hyena or a pack of hyenas. All right, so that's about the Simba. Where is our train taking us today?
Well, we are heading to Ghana, and this is the quote for today.
Yes.
Africa's economic liberation can only be achieved through unity and hard work, not through dependency or division. And this is a quote from Kwame Nkrumah. Yes, a former president of Ghana, a Pan-Africanist. Yes. So I will repeat, this is what he said, that Africa's economic liberation can only be achieved through unity and hard work, not through dependency or division.
That's very true. Huyu jamaa alikuwa anaona mbali sana.
Looking at what has been happening in our country, I mean, not even in our country, Africa in general, we have been depending, especially on the West. And of course, with this level of dependency, pali tulikuwa tumefikia kama Africa, kama as a country, of course you realize that you cannot even you'll never understand what you can do. You'll never realize what
your full potential.
Yes, you will never realize your full potential because you are depending on somebody. So sometimes you'll never even be creative enough to see what you can do by yourself. So I think this is a good challenge.
Let me quote the book of Proverbs for you. Proverbs is in the Bible. Iko karibu na kitabu kingine inaitwa Psalms. Na kuna kingine inaitwa Ecclesiastes nafuatilia. As they say nafuatilizia. The soul of the sluggard craves and gets nothing, while the soul of the diligent is richly supplied.
Amen.
The soul of the sluggard.
Yes, craves. Tamaa mingi. gets nothing, while the soul of the diligent is richly supplied.
So basically tunaambiwa tuchangamke.
Tafakari hayo.
All right.
To changamke. Do you remember that time after Trump took off office?
Yes.
The other day, how African countries really cried.
I mean, even our own former president Uhuru told us that it is time tuache kutegemea the West. And America, they're just doing what is right for America, and it's okay because even Kenya is doing what is right for Kenya. Yeye kuchukua pesa ya USAID, hasi itabidi sisi tuchangamke tuanze kufikiria outside the box, because for decades we've been depending so much on the West. So it's time for us to do what? To do what is right for us. All right, so it's time for us to get on to rgk.co.ke. I hope you have tuned in. I hope you have logged in. But if you are here for the first time, karibu tena sana. The website is rgk.co.ke. That's where you get to see us live, by the way. CT leo amekam na shati ingine ya nguvu sana. So if you'd like to see that particular fashion statement, why don't you log on to rgk.co.ke. You'll also see Patricia and myself. Another place you can see us is on YouTube. That is Radio Generation Kenya. That's the channel on YouTube. But of course in Nairobi tunakwambia tune into 88.8. Kama ungependa kutusikiza maybe ukiendesha gari ama ukifua nguo zako, it's 88.8, 90.7 in Mombasa, 92.6 in Lamu, and we have Malindi 92.1 and Garissa 89.5. So if you're on the website, let's start with this story about 10-man Harambee Stars who stunned Morocco at Kasarani. Did you watch this game?
Nope. Remember you once asked me here if I watch football. I told you I do not.
That's why I specifically asked this game.
No, I do not. But I read that we reached the quarterfinals. See, reading, I read.
Yes.
Watching is what I don't do.
Right.
But I read. And I feel we are doing marvelously well.
We are actually. We are.
Quarterfinals?
Yes.
Fantastic, man.
I was having a conversation with a couple of my friends yesterday while we were watching this game. And they were telling me, there's no way we beat DRC Congo 1-0. Then we drew rather with Angola. And then yesterday we beat Morocco. These people are saying, some of them, not all of them of course, some of them are saying, perhaps maybe Kenya imeongea na wanito nani na si coach huyu jamaa referee na ama imeongea na the players
match fixing.
And I was like, well, I mean that's a very bold allegation.
That's not bold, it's wild.
Because okay, I mean it is wild because it's like these fellows were not having faith in our team to perform.
Precisely. Why?
However, if you watch the game, if you watched those 3 games, kuna vitu nilikuwa naangalia and I'm like, how are you guys surviving with those kinds of mishaps, let me call them?
Bro, if you watch football, once upon a time I used to, and those bizarre things you're saying, I observed. A team misses.
Yep.
6 goals. This other one is just defending. Then they won, and that's it. They've won.
It's a wrap.
And clearly, the other side played better.
Yes.
They got more scoring. It hit the bar. The goalie saved it. It hit the bar again. Those guys, one chance, it goes in. That's it.
So is that what we call luck or what?
Perhaps.
It's called the role of chance, even in sports. It's like some of the games that are remembered are memorable are cup finals where the most bizarre thing happens. A team is winning and it's a second half and the other team is 3 goals down and there's 15 minutes left. Pundits have said, game
over.
Kwisha hii tushajua. They score. Haya. They won up. They score again. They said, haya. 2 minutes. They score again. They said, haya. They are draw. And they say, okay, extra time. Then something that you couldn't have expected happens. Ndani. Kidogo, firimbi. What? Those things happen. They don't happen every day.
But they do happen.
But they happen. So if it's happening here, why don't you gracefully accept that it is happening?
But City, 3 games in a row.
Okay, what was your expectation?
Ye of little faith.
City, let me ask him. So what was your expectation? Like Kenya can't...
No.
Yeah?
This guy's not a Gen Z.
Hey.
This guy's a millennial.
Eh.
Okay?
It's true.
And they're the older brothers and sisters of the Gen Z.
Yeah.
Any bad habits you find Gen Zs with, it's these people.
Yeah.
This lack of faith in your own country. It's the football team, for heaven's sake.
Patriotism.
We understand your feelings towards the government. This is our football team, for heaven's sake.
No.
And
Listen,
again,
I just want to make it very clear that I was supporting Kenya
Yes.
the entire time.
Hakuna.
but you did not.
No.
Hakuna.
Initially, before we played DRC, I was very skeptical of things. But after
You even skepticized here. If you get your word.
yes. But now, yesterday, City Mungiangaleo game. The way we were passing the ball at towards our fellow teammates, ilikuwa tu off yani.
Yeah, but that was our strategy.
Nilikuwa naangalia na shanga
No.
hataje hiyo
This
ball.
guy cannot understand strategy. Benny McCarthy, see that's his name.
Yes.
Benny knew how those guys play. Benny himself played for South Africa when they're in the World Cup.
Yeah.
Okay. See,
Yes.
even I know that.
Right.
Okay. So you think he doesn't know how the other teams play?
And again, Morocco is one of the teams, football teams that we know.
Wako fiti.
Professionally
fiti sana.
they are quite okay. So if
They are
you
one of the
decide to
best teams we
play,
have on the continent.
Yes.
yeah.
So who says we can't beat them?
So I'm saying, if you say today that you want to play them with the professionalism that they do understand, somehow they'll beat you.
Or maybe our strategy was tukaeka mafala watu to underestimate.
Yes, because
Do
those
you know
guys.
what was being said anecdotally?
Yeah.
I went to my kinyozi.
Yes.
A friend of mine connected rather glibly that why do I go to the kinyozi and doesn't see any difference? That's besides the point.
All right.
He is a football fan.
Okay.
And he was telling me how the Congolese, he like me to believe he understands their language. How they were saying they were going to beat us. They were saying, please, when we beat you, don't start mandamano. Okay? That was supposed to be the joke. So I said, it's okay. Had they considered that we might beat them? Said no, they hadn't, but we drew. I'm simply trying to tell you, finding the worst possible reason for us to win is negative and absolutely unpatriotic.
So I hope my friends who we were watching football with yesterday have heard what City has said. But personally, I was for our team. I actually had predicted to Atlantica 2-0, which we almost did when we were given that penalty and it was withdrawn. Yes, we almost beat those guys 2-0. So a big shout out.
So we're playing here in Kenya?
Yeah. Tulikuwa achezea pale Kasarani.
Home ground.
Unaona game ya Angola na Zambia?
Yeah, the one that was in
Nyayo. Yeah.
Well, I didn't watch the full match.
It ended 2-1. I don't know if by the time I stopped watching, sijui kama walikuwa wamemaliza, lakini I think it was 2-1. Even till the very end. But Angola and Zambia, that was for me, it was the most time-wasting game I've ever watched. They scored Uko from the 70th minute. And I was like, what are these guys doing? You should have seen their coaches. They were actually getting very, what is
agitated.
The word? Yes. Na walikuwa wanakasirika wanashangaa. Guys, look at it. But anyway, they played a good game. You can go watch the recap. Now, kuna jamaa anajulikana kama His Excellency Dr. William Samoei Ruto, who has announced plans to hire up to 10,000 TVET graduates for affordable housing internships. Again, let me just say this. Ruto announces plan to hire up to 10,000 TVET graduates for affordable housing internships. Okay, I am happy for the 10,000 that will be hired for affordable housing internships, but I feel like people who go to TVET and graduate from the TVETs have got much more to offer this country than ujenzi. Patricia, niwe naangalia. I feel like we can help them do other things.
Well, first of all, I think it also depends with maybe what someone has done. For example, if maybe it's somebody that has done mechanical engineering from the TVET colleges, then of course getting into the housing, the affordable
won't make sense.
No. If you have done you've done mechanical engineering, you've done structural engineering. Yeah, you've done structural engineering. You have done
it's automotive.
Yes.
So mechanical ni kutengeneza nini?
kama hawa watu ambao wako kwenye factory wanaangalia machines, wanaangalia viwanda, that's mechanical.
Si magari tu.
Kenya tuko na automotive engineering.
Iko.
As we continue, let me just Google.
Hakuna kitu ambacho tuna.
Kila kitu tuko nacho. So in terms of
if you worked in an assembly plant for a vehicle, you may need to be a mechanical engineer. But automotive, you mtu na deal na engine na nini, but please cross check.
And we need all this. We need all this in
Yes,
in these affordable housing projects. So I think it's also important that the government absorbs them in such opportunities. Tuendelee kujenga inji.
Therein lies our faulty thinking. From the time of independence until now, our thinking is that the government should employ people. The government's function, mandate, is to create an environment within which employment can be created.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yes.
Now, the absorption of people into the workplace doesn't necessarily mean they're going to work for the government. It could mean that it is a statement that has been reported, but the environment within which these jobs can be created is what is being spoken of. Now, we need to understand that it begins from the curriculum we have. The CBC, with its hiccups and missteps and the issues it has, theoretically was supposed to address this, as was the 844 system. None of them addressed it because the 844 system was never fully implemented. Somewhere along the line there was a change. CBC has changed now. It is now CBE. Changed. Now, whether a system is good or not, unfortunately, we will only determine when it is fully functional or when it is functional. When the educational system trains people to think about creating jobs and to think about how it is that they can be part of the job creation as opposed to being part of those who need to be given jobs, then we'll have reached our goal and our thinking will have changed. It is our thinking that is faulty. You cannot have a population that is increasing at the rate ours is increasing and you think that the government is going to give them jobs. Government can't give them jobs.
Yeah, actually, I was just in support of what the government has done because, of course, the affordable houses, they are creating job opportunities. Right. And actually, it's not necessarily the government that is constructing.
When they finish building those houses, what then will we do?
They can build more houses.
The point I'm trying to make is this. The idea of employment being created by this is good. It is very, very good. But that's in the building sector. How do we replicate that thinking so that something is initiated and we start it and it develops what we are saying? Now remember, part of the people who are trained in TVET will get an opportunity to work in this sector. But how many can the sector absorb realistically?
Not all of them actually.
Yes. There are those who will be trained in polytechnics, what are calling TVETs, village polytechnics. That is what I knew them as. These are the people who then spur the development in the counties where they come from. And so the practice, the idea of these houses being in every part of the county is a good one because you at least introduce a place where people who are trained can go to. But do they actually get there? What is the plan to ensure that people who graduate from these institutions actually get that opportunity, either as trainees or interns or whatever the term may be?
So I was just Googling that thing that we were talking about earlier on, the difference between mechanical and automotive engineering. Mechanical and automotive engineering are both related. However, the former, which is now mechanical, the former involves creating, analyzing, and operating various types of machinery and tools, while the latter pertains specifically to designing and producing vehicles. So they're interdisciplinary, right? Now, I was also checking out some of the TVETs we have in Kenya that actually do offer certificate and diploma programs. We have Kenya Industrial Training Institute, Nyeri National Polytechnic, PC Kinyanjui Technical Training Institute, Kenya Coast National Polytechnic, ICS College, and then Ugunja Technical and Vocational College. Now, those ones that offer specialized skills training include the Kenya Industrial Training Institute, Kabete National Polytechnic, and Nairobi Technical Training Institute. Yeah, and of course you can get a list of others. So if you'd like to, if you're interested in doing haya mambo ya machinery and automotive mechanical engineering and so on and so forth. Well, at least you can Google and you can get a lot of information. But yeah, what city has said in terms of sasa wakishamaliza kujenga nyumba za affordable housing, what next? I do not know whether they teach entrepreneurship with every course. Especially in the TVETs.
Whether it's a unit in the courses that they are taught, or is it a standalone course that you study?
I'm sure it's a standalone. There's a standalone course, but I'm asking because what I and I've been saying this and I've been advocating for this. Watu waanze kufikiria entrepreneurship. Let's start our own businesses and then create jobs for our friends. Yeah, because clearly not everyone is going to get employment, and especially not from the government. If we are being honest, sazini nanga tunazushia gava bure. Gava haiezi employ all 50 million of us. Yeah, and what the youths form about 65% of our population. There is no way they can employ 20 million plus people.
But let me ask you, do you think Kenyans don't really know that Gava cannot employ everybody?
Sometimes the way we are told about these things, we like, personally, to be honest, growing up, I knew Gava should provide employment for everyone. To be honest.
Okay.
Yes. And you see, my parents have been civil servants all their lives. So I was I was like, if my mom and dad can get a job, why not your mom and dad, for example?
Yeah, because I'm looking at how the young people when they are going out,
Yes.
especially when they were going for the protest, most of the time looking at the things that they've been agitating for, you see the aspect of taxation, and of course taxation in the fact that in the essence that it is affecting the little jobs that they are creating for themselves. Naongea about the digital tax on the digital sector. We see the young people creating their own employment through the digital space, and of course the taxes there. You remember they came out and said now tumesema tunajiajiri, tumeingia kule kwa the digital space, we are creating content, tukieka content we are being taxed more than like ile that which is discouraging them even to continue with the business. So
right.
I tend to believe that even the young people right now as we speak, a majority of Kenyans have come to the realization that of course the government cannot employ everyone. Yes, but now the issue is the environment that the government has provided in the country, can it really support self-employment? I think that is a question. Yeah, like, can it really support self-employment? Or is it discouraging people to employ themselves? I'm also for this idea. Fine, right now we are fighting the government so much, and it is our right to ask all these questions that we have, right? Yeah.
And in the middle of Vita yote, as we put time for Vita, let's also put time for our own development, because tukingoja gava itufanye kila kitu itafanyika. So what am I suggesting? I'm suggesting that we look for opportunities inside the country and also outside the country. You have skills in mechanical engineering or automotive engineering. Where else can you put those skills to work outside Kenya? Internet is your friend. Google, angalia, ona hizi skills zako ni wapi zinahitajika sana. For example, Burkina Faso are trying to do something different in the continent of Africa. Do you feel like your skills can be used there? And any other place also, which might be also within Africa or outside Africa. I feel like tusijiconfine sana kufikiria manzejo nilizaliwa Machakos, nitakuwa naishi Machakos, nimesomea Machakos, nimepata bibi yangu Machakos, nitafanya kazi Machakos, nikufie Machakos, niziko Machakos. Hapana, tembea. I know
this is just a joke,
Yeah.
But of course, Burkina Faso right now, they are looking at their own people. Burkina Faso first. Yeah.
I also feel
tell the young people not to think about Burkina Faso, think about your own country, what you can do here in your own country.
No. What if you actually have something that you can offer Burkina Faso?
Like I was saying, it is just a joke, because of course I just wanted to pass the point that of course Burkina Faso pia wao wanashughulikia nchi yao. Like Burkina Faso first, and so they are looking at the young people in their own country and also trying to push to empower them to also create employment for themselves.
You know, the empowering of students or young people or people who don't have jobs, beyond saying they're being empowered and having a chit chat with them about it, that's all. When you have a chit chat, that's all you're doing. You haven't empowered anybody. You haven't created anything. You've had a chit chat. the creation of jobs has to do with how you train the mind of your people so that they understand that they are part of the solution. What do I mean by that? This job creation is not someone else's job, it is theirs also. They must. But out of thin air, they can't do that. You have to take them through a process of how it is. They can learn and understand how they can create work, first for themselves, and then they can get others to participate in it.
All right. It's time for us to check the newspapers. I don't know what today they are saying. Sijapata nafasi ya kupitia, lakini acha tuangalie Standard ndio nimeshikilia hapa. Wanasema Ruto Messiah in quotes games. So Ruto Messiah games. President Ruto's reign has been defined by sweeping changes, sudden reversals, and high stakes rescues, often of his own making. From fuel prices soaring to a record 211 after subsidy removal, sparking public fury to fee hikes, digital IDs, and court battles. A familiar script plays out. Disrupt, face outrage, then swoop in as savior. Critics call it savior syndrome. City. Critics are calling what Ruto is doing a savior syndrome. You create a problem, come in like Superman, save us, then, say, unaona nilifanya hivi na hivi.
Well, it is within the realms of possibility, and it doesn't have to be within the realms of conspiracy theory. The truth is this,
Yeah.
Whereas it is possible a problem existed and the executive is trying its very best to solve it, we and the manner in which our mind and our thinking has been bent with regards to the government, it appears that for some people there's nothing this government will do right. If something seems to work, they will find an angle to ensure that that particular thing which on the face of it looks good can't be entirely good. There has to be a negative twist to it.
Right.
There are those who have that mindset. And it's with reason. When expectations are raised high, unfortunately, the level of disappointment will also correspond with the expectations. High expectations, high disappointments. It's how it works. And when people are disappointed, they tend to be negative. Even when something good is happening, a nice, bright, sunny day, you can see the sun. They keep quiet, look, you see that cloud over there. Say, bro, all this sun you can't see. Says, yes, but do you see that cloud? You know it's coming.
Right.
Now, in some sense, that is what I'm hearing. Okay? Do they have evidence to support what they're saying?
Right.
That these are the games that are being played by the executive, that they've raised the price so that they can reduce it again, or they raise the price of unga so that they can reduce it again. And then in that case, if we take the argument to its logical conclusion, then this story about fertilizer was all a game. Everything. When we're told, for instance, that we produce enough grain for the country, we are being lied to. How do you know? Have you seen did you count them, first of all?
All right. So, City, there's a problem with your mic. Wacha tu fix kidogo, but for partition.
I'm talking to myself.
You've been talking to yourself for about 20 or so seconds. But no, we get your point. Now, Patricia.
Yes, please.
I don't know what you think. Let me just read what they have said here. Wamesema kwa mfano, that whole savior syndrome. For example, before Ruto's regime, ID application fee was 100 bob for first-time applicants and replacement. All right? Now, Ruto's proposal, sasa iko sawa. Ruto's proposal was 1,000 for first-time applicants, which was revised to 300 shillings after backlash, and they proposed 2,000 for replacement. So after public outcry, it is free for first-time applicants and replacement. Aya, kitu ingine ilifanyika. Medicine annual tuition fee for students wishing to join medical school. Before President Ruto's regime, it was between 520,000 to 600,000 annually. Ruto's funding model put it at 612 for some bands. After public outcry, it is now 450, even cheaper before Ruto came to power. Fuel prices in Nairobi, before removal of subsidy, this was pre-September 2022, fuel was at 159 shillings. After Ruto removed the subsidy, it shot up to 211 shillings and 64 cents. After public outcry, it is currently at 186 shillings and 31 cents. So it's like create a problem again, just like we said it, watu wazushe, then you come and say kitu nimefanya sasa hata nimewaondolea hiyo shida.
Well, I think most of the time that is also a strategy governments do use in terms of.
I'm going to challenge you on this one. When you say, if you say it's a strategy governments use, which other governments do you know who have used that strategy?
Well, it's not even this government alone. Even the previous government, there are so many other times, like the prices of commodities have gone so high. Now, after the public outcry, that's when they come down. But again, I want to maybe,
but Patricia,
how I wanted to put
if
it.
If prices go high, does it mean that the government has artificially heightened
created
it's not necessarily the government. Of course, there are forces of the market forces that affects the prices of commodities and so forth. But again, when the government wants to raise taxes, revenue, of course, wakiguza hapa mkose kulia. Si tunaendelea na hapo. Sometimes wakiguza, okay, this is just a layman's way of thinking. Just a layman's way of thinking. Some other time, there's something that can be, because, according to the government, they knew that if we raise the cost of getting an ID card, maybe they thought this is also one way of raising finances or revenue for the government. But then, after realizing, after people's, the Kenyans have cried, the outcry, something they come down and think like, okay, ni kama tunawaumiza, wacha turudishe chini.
Wako wanajua, but sitting no nakataa hii story.
One of the problems that many governments like ours have when you borrow from this Bretton Woods institution, whether it's World Bank or IMF, they come with something called austerity measures. That thing has never worked anywhere. And they keep insisting we implement it. They keep insisting. The implementation is what President Moi encountered, called structural adjustment program. That thing put us into more problems than anything we've ever known. You can actually see the country doing a turn for the worse during that particular period of time. Austerity measures, it is called. Austerity. It doesn't work. What works is when you spur development and economic activity in the country. When you have a problem like ours, you don't, let me use Kiswahili, you don't finyilia. No. You unalegeza. You allow more money into the economy. When there is more money, people then buy goods, do business. That's how you jumpstart the economy. When you do what these people suggest, you are constricting the heart. You get to a point you can't even breathe. And then you have to go to them again. These measures suit them, not us.
Not us, yeah.
And when we go to them, they know we have no options. And it's part of the reason why you find this government going to some really tricky sources to borrow money.
Which source?
You go to places by the way, you come back with
loan shark.
Zile conditions unapewa za
Shylock.
zile conditions unapewa ukirudi
commercial borrowing. In a dollar a dollar denominated loan, haki tuko na shida. The interest is high, the payment period is short. You have a problem.
That's why you come back. You unataka kufinyilia sasa watu wako.
You have a choice, either default, in which case you'll do really really badly, or you borrow to pay.
Ule jamaa anaandikanga hizi story standard akuje tuandike movie because but I mean it's a very nice theory. It's a very nice theory. All right, so I have the Nairobian here, and it says, men of God, dirty secrets and deceit. Reverend Munengi Mulandi's dramatic fall from grace to Nairobi Baptist Church has reopened deep cracks in Kenya's pulpit as worshippers swirl online and past scandals resurface. One truth is clear. Misconduct in the clergy is no longer a holy secret. The shepherd, it seems, must now be watched. Kanisa imekuwa kwa shida for a while, and
does he not have a board of elders
in the church?
Yes.
Hawezi kosekana.
That's their job.
To deal with the scandals.
Yeah, to deal. They are supposed to be the support arm who hold this particular individual in check. The amount of power that the pulpit gives you will corrupt you. You need people who can tell you, Ndugu, this isn't working. You need to do this. If you are the sort who doesn't listen, then it is also their job. Tell the congregation, this person is not listening.
So you see, now here's the problem. Most of these churches are personal churches. Ni mimi na bibi yangu tumefungua kanisa.
No, Baptist is a personal church.
No, nasema most. That's why I'm saying this one, because even the Catholic Church has got its own scandals.
They do, but there's a check and balance, and you can see it. You may not like it, but you see there's a check and balance to it. And people are called out. You see? It's these men of God type churches, where somebody begins, he's very charismatic, and then suddenly it is his word against God's word. He mentions the Bible, then he mentions his own things. And somehow he has a following. That's what those ones are problematic.
Are you talking about the guy who sings in his church with a guitar and then he's got that shiato?
He's not the only person who sings. There are very many people. How do you think Shakahola happened?
Now, Shakahala, you remember we sat here with Redemptor?
Yes.
The story she gave us, for me, that one is a story for a different
And I'm trying to tell
platform.
you, he started off as a televangelist.
True.
Prosperity gospel. That's how he started. He was challenged.
Right.
His message started drifting into strange directions. He was challenged. He stopped. Created this new thing. That's what I'm saying. The signs are usually there. When someone stops being subservient to the gospel that they claim that they are representing and they become the center of it, you already have a problem. You do not need to go further than that. You do have a problem.
And again, that is the reason why, of course, the issue of regulation of these churches is also quite important. You know, like those of you who are starting their own churches, like yesterday I went to some estate and like it's like in every plot there is a church.
They were going to increase, by the way, just let you understand.
In every plot. Hapo chini unapata kuna kanisa. Then like you are like, okay, why can these people just come together? Just have one place of worship.
My friend.
Why? Hapa na hapa.
There was the Roman Catholic Church. The Protestants protested. That's why they came there.
They came out.
Yes. Methodists had their own way of looking at God's word. It's not a negative thing for people to move away. Because by and large, you'll find that their beliefs are similar. They're not dissimilar. What we're talking about is when somebody, more or less, it's like they're creating their own Bible, their own word of God, which is them, and the way they should go about it. And the signs start when they start deviating from what is actually in the Bible, which they claim to represent its teaching. The point is, when people suffer, as Kenyans are now suffering, more churches will emerge. More.
Yeah.
People need to feel that there can be divine intervention to this pain that they are feeling, to this, to just the uncertainty that they have. And more churches will emerge. People will spend their time. First of all, when you don't have money, you have time. There's no way for you to go. To go places, you need money. So if there's a church, 2 hours, 3 hours have been killed there nicely. And who knows, you may hear something that may actually help you and encourage you in the course of the day. So, Patricia, churches are going to increase. Yeah,
well, I did not say that churches are bad. I'm just looking at now the aspect of these people who are coming up with these churches. Sometimes, I'm
actually agreeing with you, Patricia.
Yeah.
I'm just saying the proliferation will increase. That's all I'm saying. You're right.
All right. Patricia, Star inasema nini hapo mbele?
Yeah, the Star biggest story here is about debt. So, debt trap tightens as families borrow to afford basics. Yeah? Debt trap tightens as families borrow to afford basics. 52% of Kenyans buy food on credit from shopkeepers and friends. Story on pages 4 and 5.
So yeah, it's very true, because for me, even the number of friends nowadays calling to, borrow money for food, money for fuel, just to get from point A to B, ni wengi. So you can actually tell things are thick.
Yeah, there's this one, Joel, who is saying that my salary can barely survive a day at the bank. Last month, for instance, I spent almost 80% on school fees and hospital bills. I had to subscribe to a number of digital lending apps. So, well, this is a reflection of where we are economically as a country. Because the good thing is that most of the time we say that if you want to tell the economy is doing quite well or is somehow better, of course Kenyans, all the citizens must feel it. So the question is, with you borrowing even for basic needs like food, how does that what message does that pass to us as Kenyans about our economy so far?
That ni kubaya.
They're actually regurgitating something that has been happening for quite some time.
Yeah.
They're just probably highlighting it. What is being stated there has been happening for quite some time now.
For the longest, yeah?
Yes. And also, alongside that story, the number of people who are losing jobs is not going down. If there's no money in the economy, businesses will start downsizing as they move towards closing. Okay? Businesses are opening up, but not at the rate at which they are closing. Okay? And it is not that the businesses are not viable. People do not have money because in the absence of money, they can't spend it. If they can't spend it, that business cannot be supported. There isn't enough money circulating within the country. And that's what these austerity nonsensical measures bring about.
So, kuna mtu alisema, sikumbuki kama alisema hapa ama alisemea wapi, but nakumbuka alisema hivi that and I'm now anchoring on that point of money circulating. Said that there's some people who've taken money, put them in sacks and put them in their houses. They've taken some money, put it in banks outside. So that means there's very little money to circulate here in the country. So that means that even the banks can't give people loans. They can't give many people loans because they don't want to run out of cash, so they can't give everyone. So out of maybe 10 people who go and ask for a loan, chances are 3 will get
defaulters. And actually
then of course you will default on that loan. Aya, juu hakuna pesa huku ndani ya country na circulate, ni kumaanisha pia watu wana pesa kwa mfuko, kumaanisha watu wana purchasing power. So you will open a business but you have no customers. The customers you have, few of them of course will buy, but majority are coming also to borrow. So where does that leave you also as an entrepreneur? You also do not have capital because umepeana vitu zako zote hapo nje. Watu unangoja tu akulipe ndio uende ukanunue stock. Yeah?
You are selling on credit.
Na watu wenye pia umewapatia on credit, they are unable to pay because they have borrowed so much money from their digital lenders. They are also unable to pay. So you are unable to pay rent, you are unable to pay for your goods and services, you are unable, and then now the ripple effect inakuja na kwa mbaya zaidi. So the entire country is literally broke. Very few people, yes, out of a population of 50 million. I wouldn't give it a percentage because I don't have the facts in terms of numbers or the statistics in terms of numbers. But the truth of the matter is, right now, watu wamesota properly.
And this isn't the view of CT Muga, who has woken up and is not feeling very happy with things. This is Central Bank of Kenya data. What we have right now is the lowest point we've had in 24 years in terms of circulation and in terms of growth. Lowest since 2001. And it's for the same reasons that Mbuvi has mentioned. Because circulation by its very nature simply means when there is enough money and people are spending it, more people get to have that money on their hands. The affordable housing that you're speaking of, full blown means people are working, they are being paid. As they are being paid, they spend. The people they spend on also spend. That's circulation. It comes from the builder to the contractor to the artisan to the shopkeeper to the retailer, like that. And then it goes round.
It's a chain,
to the industry where it's manufactured. Now more people have more money, so you order more because more people are buying. Like that. That is how the economic growth is measured. You see it, by the way, you feel it. Central Bank indicates these things. This is not something you guess. If you just take the time and bother to read these reports, they tell you. and it's in black and white. So
now the question is, when the president comes out and says that things are going on well, where does he get the data from?
He has to qualify what he means by well.
When he says that the economy
I can't
is
qualify that for him.
yes?
If he says it is well, it is him to qualify and says what he means.
Well, you see, and exactly, so CT can't hold a brief for the president here. And it's only him who can tell us, look, when I say the economy is performing well, this is what I mean. And of course, we've heard him in the past say, unga ilikuanga X amount, sasa iko Y. Mchele ilikuanga hivi, saizi iko hivi. Wakulima wa viazi walikuwa wanasema kitambo ilikuanga hivi, saizi iko hivi. Fertilizer ilikuanga hivi, sasa iko hivi. Sorry. So, for me, it is up to him to come in. But again, there's a time we sat here with the deputy spokesperson of Gava, Gabriel Mutuma. And he was telling us all these beautiful things about how the government has delivered in the last 2 years that they have been in power. But then the next day, we sat here with Professor Ogola. And we told him, look, bana, Gava inasema vitu zinafanya kazi vipoa. Akaniuliza Gava inasema nini? And I told him those examples, viazi, mchele. I told him about unga and so on and so on. And he was like, but why are we not hearing it from the farmers? Why are we hearing it from government? And I was like, but it is their responsibility to announce it to us because they have done it, so they tell us. But he told me, but have you met a single farmer saying things are improving on their end? And then it hit me, by they have not had a farmer. Chances are I don't know farmers.
Well, let me ask the question. Even when things have been doing well, when have you heard farmers talking about how well they're doing?
But now you see.
And again, forget about even the farmers. Think about even the users. The mwananchi wa kawaida ambaye anatumia hizo products.
And that is why I sat down and I reflected on what Professor had said, Professor Gola. And it hit me by the how much am I buying nyanya? How much am I buying viazi for? How much am I buying capsicum and all those other foods that we eat? And I realized things are actually more expensive today than they were probably even 5 years ago.
Yeah.
They have gone up. Nakumbuka kitambo nilikuwa na 50 bob ingekubaia a lot of viazi. But nowadays kiazi kimoja kinauzwa between 10 bob and 15 bob. Na nika kiazi kingine kadogo sana kakitu tu kanatosha na sijui nini.
Well, I tend to believe there is no single day that maybe a loaf of bread will go back to 30 shillings.
I mean,
of course, things are changing.
We have
Prices
to consider
of
inflation.
Continue changing.
Inflation, sorry.
But now, the issue is, are people able to afford, after it has increased from 40 shillings to 70 shillings? Now the question is, are people able to afford that bread at 70? So I think for us, it's not even a matter of saying now bread go back to 40 shillings. It's a matter of now, at that 70 shillings, are Kenyans able to purchase?
You make an extremely valid point. Even if it went to 40 shillings and people couldn't buy it, we'd still have a problem.
Yes.
Because the government will report it has gone down, yes. But people can't afford it because they do. Yes, go ahead.
No. We go back to what we said earlier on about money being unavailable for circulation.
People don't have disposable incomes. You see, the thing is this, when the economy is robust, you don't need to be told.
You feel
it.
It's abundantly feelable, if I may use the term. Yes.
And again, I think we've been talking of this political conclave of intergenerations, and I think it is high time we also called for an economic conclave.
But you see,
we just need to have all the stakeholders. This one specifically for the economy of the country.
But what, in your opinion, do you think the Gen Z protests were all about? They were not about anything else. They were about economic reforms.
Yes.
Because hii story, apart from, of course, the mambo ingine ya police brutality, the finance bill basically is 100% a financial situation that people were complaining about.
Yeah.
Look at maneno ya youth unemployment. It translates to having money in your pocket. Look at the other things that they were talking about in terms of high cost of living. Hiyo yote ni mambo ya finance.
So that's a reason why I'm saying.
So hata hii conclave wakiita, yes, kutakuwa na mambo ya Rex Masai, kutakuwa na stories za Albert Ojwang, kutakuwa na mambo ya wale wengine wote 60 something plus people that died last year. but the other main agenda, which if not addressed, it's going to cripple the country.
Yeah,
it's the money factor.
That's why I've talked of now a purely economic conclave. Like, we want to talk about the economy of the country. Of course, I know we cannot talk of the economy without politics, because politics, of course, they influence the economy of a country. But now this one, when leaders come into this meeting thinking about what is that which can be done in our country to improve the performance of the economy of the country. Right. I think that is what people need to, because right now, even after the mandamano, even during the mandamano, do you know our leaders deep in their heads, they are thinking about the political side of it. I'm telling you, what they think about, they have not looked at now, okay, this economy thing has been an issue for the longest in our country. Can we just have people, technocrats, issues to do with the economy, who can come, sit down with the stakeholders and think about the economy, putting aside the issues of ati nani anaenda kuwa kiongozi wapi.
The point you make is extremely valid, but it will never happen. What moves a country and the economy is the politics, not the technocrats.
True.
We attempted to bring in technocrats as CSs, and then we went further. We brought them now as PSs. There are instances where it has worked well, but there are instances where it has achieved the complete opposite of what we wanted. The civil service works because civil servants are meant to be permanent and pensionable, and so they are assured of their position so they can actually work. They don't have to be involved in politics. The moment politics comes into it, the uncertainty enters. So the civil service becomes a place where there's unrest. When there's an unrest, believe me, very many things will go wrong in the country, because they're the ones who actually run the country. They're the ones who actually implement the day-to-day things that you see. So what you say is ideal and what we should happen. The conclave should be there. The discussions must be there. The politicians will always choose a path that favors them because they feel they are not accountable to anyone. When they know they are, they will think straight, they'll be sober, and they'll make decisions that will likely bring about what we want. But so long as they feel and know that they cannot be held to account for anything.
It is what it is. So we have a minute, City. What's on the newspapers before you?
I have the newspapers all rolled into one. It's called the East African. Africa. Right. There's a headline: Kenya, US revive the old trade deal. Trade ministers expecting delegations from Washington, D.C., etc. Then Kenya to pay highs for EAC budget because it's based on the country's GDP. South Sudan having its problems, it's not getting solved. Mudavadi saying we can't repay DA for what they've done to our traders. It's not like us, blah, 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 blah. And the talk goes on.
It is what it is. All right, so we're taking a short break, but when we return, we are hoping that we shall be hosting Professor P.L.O. Lumumba. He's a constitutional lawyer, and we want to focus on democracy and what Kenya needs. So democracy and what Kenya needs. You can send in your feedback in advance, any questions you might be having for the professor as far as our topic is concerned. Wateni wapatie WhatsApp namba yetu. Hiyo nambari ya WhatsApp ni 0116-928-683. Again, it is 0116-928-683. What would you like to ask the professor as far as democracy is concerned? And of course, contact Salimia City Muga. Why don't you also do it through that number? Right now, though, here's the news with Winnie Maganga.
It's 7 o'clock.
Generation, the home of urban soul. This is the Radio Generation News.
morning, I'm Winnie Maganga. The National Police Service has expressed concern over a sharp rise in fatal road accidents across the country, warning that most of the crashes could be avoided if road users exercised greater caution. In a statement on Sunday, NPS said it is working with other state agencies to conduct thorough and expeditious investigations into the recent incidents, which have left at least 48 people dead in just 1 week. The service noted that the crashes have caused immense suffering to families and stressed that every possible measure must be taken to prevent further loss of life. According to NPS, the majority of accidents could be prevented if motorists and pedestrians avoided risky behaviors such as speeding, dangerous overtaking, drunk driving, overloading, driver fatigue, and careless road crossing. Meanwhile, several leaders from Kisumu have called for road redesign and school bus inspections after a tragic crash killed 26 people in the county last week. They are also calling for the removal of roundabouts along the Kiboswa Mamboleo stretch, calling on authorities to act swiftly to prevent further loss of lives.
Literally, I mean, we have lost quite a number of lives. I think this we must talk about in the same spot. And we seem to just be burying our heads in the sand, hoping that things will improve. And I want to call upon the relevant agency of the national government, Kenya, to be specific, to redesign that road, because as it is now, it is a death trap.
It's an accident that has taken many lives, countless lives. And it's something that the roads authority, the police, needs to do something and do something very, very urgently.
A promise by President William Ruto to reward Harambee Stars 1 million Kenya shillings for every match won at the ongoing CHAN 2024 seems to have worked some great magic. The national side battled to a 1-0 win over Morocco courtesy of Ryan Ogam's strike in the Group A clash at Kasarani Stadium on Sunday. Stars held on for the victory despite going down 10 men in the first half after Chris Erambo was sent off. With the win, Stars have secured a spot in the quarterfinals and will look to build on this momentum as they take on Zambia in their final group match. Here is the Stars coach Benny McCarthy.
We deserve the win as much as they had 90% of the ball, but end of the day, 3 points was ours. I said to the players, the team that wants this the most is the one that runs the hardest, is the one that's going to put in the foot where it hurts the most. And I think we did all that and they got the reward. You know, sometimes we are work in progress. We're not perfect yet.
The government is expediting major projects aimed at boosting the blue economy, infrastructure and social amenities in Mombasa County, said Deputy President Kithure Kindiki. Speaking in Tononoka on Sunday, Professor Kindiki said the completion of the Liwatoni Fish Point, Kidongo Fish Market and the acquisition of deep-sea fishing vessels will significantly enhance fishing and related businesses along the coast. Kindiki further explained that the ongoing dualling of the Mombasa-Nairobi highway up to Mariakani and the Nyali-Mtwapa Road and the operationalization of the Dungu-Kundu Special Economic Zone are critical in modernizing Mombasa and creating employment opportunities.
Tunajenga nyumba zingine pale Shibolatewa Prison. Tunajenga nyumba zingine pale Dungu-Kundu Special Economic Zone. Na hiyo mijengo yote vile vile tunaongeza mambo ya masoko hapa Mombasa, soko la Old Town, soko la Changamwe, masoko yote ya Mombasa tunayajenga upya ili tuhakikishe kwamba akina mama wetu wako na mahali safi pa kuuzia bidhaa, masoko ya kisasa ambayo yako na lactation rooms.
Criminal gangs have killed 13 security personnel, including 2 policemen and 11 vigilantes in Nigeria's northwestern Zamfara state in latest violence in the region, a lawmaker and residents told AFP on Sunday. Criminal gangs called bandits by the locals have been for years terrorizing communities in northern, western and central Nigeria, raiding villages, kidnapping residents and burning homes after looting them. Local reports say bandits in large numbers stormed a Dabaka village in Bukuyum district on Friday and kidnapped some residents. And that's the truth on Radio Generation. Good morning. I'm Winnie Maganga.
Traffic.
Alright, so the roads of Nairobi right now are looking kind of tricky. If you're on Ngong Road, acha nikwambia ukweli, vitu zinasonga lakini ukikaribia, let me see. I'm looking at the situation around the Nairobi Funeral Home. That roundabout there is currently clear at this particular minute on Mombasa Road. If you're coming from Kitengela driving through to Cabanas past Mlolongo, mko sawa sawa on that particular road, no complaints coming through. Then there's another situation that is developing around the southern bypass. No, not southern bypass. Ile barabara inajulikana kama aje? Iya kutoka Outer Ring Road. Yes. There's a little bit of traffic around further antenna, but that's because of the matatus that usually stop there. They do not have a designated area, but otherwise everything else is moving A-okay.
Traffic on Radio Generation. In the beginning, there was morning radio.
I've never seen anything like this.
But now there is Radio Generation's The People's Breakfast. Curious and bold, getting facts from the shadows.
That's what it is.
Now, as the city wakes and secrets stir, a bright new voice shines. The People's Breakfast. Your morning, your voice, your journey.
You got it locked.
Good morning.
Good morning, my neighbor.
Welcome to the home of hard truths and bold insights. Radio Generation.
A very good morning to you and welcome to Radio Generation. My name is Mung'ala Mbuvi. It is now 8 minutes past 7 o'clock. Na kama kawaida tuko naye City Muga in the studio. But also we are joined by Professor P.L.O. Lumumba. He's a lawyer. And this morning we are going to be talking about what Kenya needs as far as democracy is concerned. Professor, a very good morning to you and welcome to Radio Generation.
Thank you very much for the invitation.
Right, I always see you, on TV and on newspapers and so on and so forth. But actually getting to meet you and hearing some of the things that you have to say about this country, I feel like you have much more to offer as far as do I say politics or otherwise is concerned. And I hope one day, one time, because I know you did try getting into politics, but then again ukaamua ku step back. I hope one day, one time, you will mentor the next generation of amazing politicians. Yeah,
Socrates says that all of us are political animals and we are mentoring them, and that also calls into question what is politics. So in this country and in Africa, we think politics is the nonsense that goes round at funerals.
Yes.
Politics is the organization of human affairs for the improvement of their being.
Yeah.
Until the day we understand politics properly, we'll always confuse it for the nonsense at funerals.
Right. Yeah, and he has called it rightly so, nonsense, eh?
That's what it is, without giving it a Christian name.
I want us to focus on democracy this morning. And according to you, I think the Constitution of 2010 was one of the biggest gifts that Kenya got. But I don't know, perhaps you might have a different opinion. It was supposed to deliver democracy in a way that Kenyans had never experienced before. But I kind of feel like that's not happening anymore. What's your opinion as far as that is concerned?
Mbuvi and City, my own view is that we missed the essence. I was there when we were doing the Constitution. I was there when we collected the views of the people of Kenya. I was there when we came up with the Bomas draft. And I remember one politician whom I'll not name because he's dead. When we had gotten to 2002 in the Kibaki administration, he told us publicly, we never needed a constitution. What we needed was power. And I remember a politician who is the most active opposition politician saying that a constitution can never be given to a country unless there is bloodshed. And as if he was a prophet, it took the ethnic clashes of 2007, 2008, and Kofi Annan and the UN and the external world for us to have a constitution in 2010. A very watered down constitution. If you look at the architecture of that constitution, which is liberal democracy, we got certain things wrong. And the politicians who are now given the task of midwifing that constitution on behalf of the people, many of them do not believe in that constitution. They do not believe in the presidential system that we have. They do not believe in human rights. They do not believe in devolution. And that is why you now see in Kenya the attempt to operate outside of the constitution, a la BBI, a la NADCO, or to constitutionalize the unconstitutional and to legalize the illegal. Because they can't operate within the constitution. They want to rule by fiat. And the people are also to be blamed because our civic awareness as a people is dominated by primordial ethnic instincts. So we respond to a low voltage ethnic warlord. If you are Gikoyo, if you are Kisi, if you are Luhya, if you are any other community, Kamba, that is what we do. Until the day that we realize that democracy is a limited government, and I seldom use the word democracy now because it's been so bastardized that I prefer to talk about good governance. So on a scale of 1 to 10, in terms of the fidelity to the Constitution and fidelity to good governance, our country is at 3, meaning that 1 is the very worst and 10 is the best.
Professor, you've said our civic awareness is wanting. Perhaps let's expound a little bit on that. Because we always say that the power belongs to the people and the people are the ones who will decide the government and so on and so forth. But now you're telling us that we are not, from what I understand, it's like we are not mature enough to even perform those duties as far as our responsibility in making decisions are concerned.
It is not about immaturity. It is hypocrisy. It is selfishness. It is short-sightedness. And it is corruption. These are the evils that reside in the hearts and minds of the average Kenyan voter. That is why they respond to the stimuli of 200 shillings. That is why they respond to the stimuli of ethnicity. And because we have not liberated ourselves and become citizens, I think it is the Greeks who categorize the population into 3. There are those who are tribalists, who think that it's only when men and women from their tribe preside over state instruments that they are safe. Then there are idiots who just don't care about how countries are run. And then there are citizens, people who love the country and think intergenerationally. Unfortunately, they are few and far between. I'm in a number of forums in WhatsApp where I remain silent like Jesus Christ, we say, on the wall. And you listen to people who have gone to school, professors. It has nothing to do with formal education.
Right.
It has everything to do with a reawakening. And I think that is the Kenyan problem. Look at the debate that you see. Look at our people when they are at funerals. Somebody is lying dead and somebody is talking about elections. Somebody is lying dead, ought to be respected, and they are talking about the economy. Somebody is lying dead and ought to be sent off, and they are talking about empowerment of the youth. That is how low we have sunk as a people. And until the day we consciously take charge and tell these individuals who I'm reluctant to call leaders that they are on the wrong track. And remember that many of these individuals who now rule the roost in Kenya are carryovers from the Moi administration. What did they know best? They knew that you go to a marketplace and you say that you are going to empower people. They knew that you summon people. Nowadays we have governors' residences and the status. You summon them and give them something called development. That is all they know. The Kibaki interruption was too short to have a permanent effect.
Right.
And look at the individual. The administration of President Kenyatta was simply a reload in many ways of the Moi administration. And of course, my good friend William Ruto was the prime mover in Youth for KANU 1992. That is where he was born and bred. And for that reason, the only thing that he knows is to run government by fiat. And fidelity to the Constitution. The Constitution is actually a hindrance, an irritant, which must be avoided at all costs. And if you are to respect it, it's just a salutary gesture to it. It is sad. It is painful. And we don't appear to feel the pain. We have been here. And this country is progressively, because of our lack of fidelity to good governance, losing our leadership role in Africa. Look at the bangles we make diplomatically. Otherwise, if it is not Sudan, if it is Congo, if it is not Congo, it is Israel. If it is not Israel, we Sahrawi. We are making blunder after blunder, and it is sad and painful at once.
City has been saying here time and time again that the problem is not the laws that we have, not even the Constitution. It's the fact that we as Kenyans don't hold our leaders to account. We don't question. We don't make sure that we question what is happening and literally run after them if they go in a different direction. Do you think that again boils down to our civic duty, or have we been so brainwashed by our local leaders that even nationally we are not seeing the bigger picture?
City is right. It is not a question of laws. We have a forest of beautiful laws. On Friday, I wrote to the man who is the head of NTSA about the state of the roads in this country, the quality of our driving. It is terrible across the country. And as if I was a Jewish prophet, look at the number of accidents that we have had this time. Is it because we don't have traffic rules? Is it because we don't have bylaws? I drive on Jogoo Road in Nairobi and cows are grazing on rubbish. There are city council bylaws on what ought to happen. We have laws. The governor of Nairobi says at a public forum, I'm forming a company to employ 3,500 people. Looks good on paper, but on the basis of what law is he doing that? In other words, it is not a question of absence of laws. In fact, if we were to obey and to implement the laws we have, this would be El Dorado, the land of gold. But the reality is we have chosen to go the other way. Look at, if you permit me, this thing called NADCO. The President of the Republic of Kenya and the nominal leader of the opposition, Mr. Odinga, signed something which is unconstitutional. It is extra-constitutional, and we don't say anything about it. All the things that are to be found in that document are in the Constitution. Why are we going outside of the Constitution? Why are Kenyans not complaining about it? It is because we don't love our country sufficiently. We are not patriots. Yesterday, I saw in La Côte d'Ivoire people coming out in the streets of Abidjan and telling their President Alassane Ouattara, we don't want a fourth term. Here, we watch on television as a young men and women are being shot. So we must rise up. And I've seen Kenyans do it. I was there in the year 1990s when I was in the Council of the Law Society, when we were in the streets making demands of the Moi administration. I remember in the 2000s when we were making the Constitution, people were there. That spirit must be rekindled, because the Kenyan politician has now discovered one thing, that our memories are short and selective, and that we are capable of being mobilized on an ethnic ground. So they say if one is from tribe A, their son or daughter can do no wrong. And for that reason, they have perfected the art that was introduced into this part of the world by the British, divide and rule. For them it was divide and conquer, but here it is divide and rule. And divided we are, and being dominated we are, painfully so.
Professor, there is nowhere I remember being taught anything about our constitution, apart from me making that effort to access it online, read through it, and get to understand whatever it is that I will understand. And I don't want to excuse Kenyans here, but allow me to do it, because a majority of them don't know better. They do not know what exactly their rights are as far as the constitution is concerned. They do not know what responsibilities they have as far as NADCO is concerned, or the 10-point agenda is concerned, or BBI is concerned. According to them, whatever they're being told by the President Uhuru or President Ruto or Raila Amolo Odinga, perhaps it is what at that particular point is what they will debate about. But I feel like they do not understand that they actually do have the power in numbers, and if they decided to rise up, they can actually make the changes they want. Look at what happened from last year to this year. The Gen Zs, or the Kenyans who went to the streets, majority of them ended up either being maimed, shot, and so demoralized, and so on and so forth.
Not majority.
A number of them, sorry. A number of them ended up, dying in the streets. They ended up hurting themselves, and so on and so forth. So when we see that on TV, when we see that on social media, why would I want to join my fellow brothers and sisters in the streets, and yet I might be the next headline tomorrow?
All struggle that give birth to good is sacrificial. The very fact that we regained our independence is because others sacrificed. If we don't sacrifice, we can lose this country. And it's not about civic or want of civic education. If you listen to the vernacular or vernacular radio stations, there are programs. It is Inoro, it is Ramogi, it is Musie, it's all these. They have segments where they talk about Wado in Agikoyo or Pendchik in the Luo. They do. And people are oral. And I remember when we were doing the constitution, let me tell you, there is not a village in this country that I did not go to. There is not one. We were present in every village and we talked. People know. It is not this sophisticated legalese that you find in the document that defines what a constitution is. A constitution is about what is right and what is wrong. People know that they ought not to be bribed. We have just chosen the path of what now can be called, I think it's Luther King who called it moral relativism, that nothing is wrong. Everything depends on this or that. We must make a conscious decision. And that decision comes, the shortest avenue to it is to have enlightened and committed leadership. If you have it, then you can have a populace that responds. And I saw it. CT will remember this. I hope so you also remember. When the NAC administration came in for the first few days, people were arresting police officers for receiving bribes.
Yes.
And then a few days later, we went back to our factory setting. We now read in the newspapers that police officers collect 13 billion in bribes, traffic, documented. We don't get angry. So until the day that the anger wells up, and if you want to play safe, like most of us are going to playing safe, there comes a time when we can lose the country. And you can see it when you go around the country, see the abject abandon. Look at politicians. A politician comes and says, when the elections will be held in the year 2027 and the votes are not enough, we will steal votes and make them enough. Another one says that I'll mobilize people from my rural village and bring them to Nairobi and beat people up and they are not arrested. So what message are we sending? We are sending the message that we don't care. And they say in Kiswahili, mtego wa panya wanasa waliomo na wasiokuwemo. Those who want to remain in their little houses thinking that they are safe, when the house begins to burn, when the Titanic begins to sink, all of us, mwenzako akinyolewa kichwa chako kitie maji. Wamenyolewa Sudan, wamenyolewa Darfur, wamenyolewa Central African Republic, wananyolewa Eastern Congo. Kenyans had better wake up to the reality that if we continue on this trajectory, where leadership is impervious to reason, where leadership think that they are larger than life, where the leadership think that they are infallible, and where the population think that they can be led, in fact misled, because of ethnic considerations, then we are in danger of destroying this good country.
May I add to what you've just said? You know, those who present and give flesh to what you've just said are what you call the political leadership. And they lead large to the point where any other form of leadership in this country takes second place. The religious leaders have been challenged about this. Because we've had a time such as this one, and the people who rose up and put their foot down on what we now know as governance were religious leaders. They said no. This is not it. They were willing to challenge the political power structure. We have a religious structure that doesn't quite meet the muster of what is required of them. They are mandated to speak against wrong, actually.
Absolutely.
The faiths they believe in,
yes,
they are mandated. It's not a suggestion, they are mandated. If you look at the NADCO report that the professor has spoken of, Prof, remind me again, what were we told the NADCO report was supposed to provide us with? Whoa, there was a lot of hoo-ha and huff about it. What was it supposed to do, actually?
Among other things, what it does is that we shall respect the Constitution. You don't need to be told that we shall create the position of the leader of the opposition. We don't need that. We have a minority leader. That we shall create the office of a prime minister. We don't need that. That we shall ensure that we don't have high debt. There are laws to do that. That we shall ensure that our youth have employment. The NADCO report is is nonsense. I'm looking for a better word, but I can find none. It is nonsense. It is nonsense on stilts. And the people who came out with it, and they say this is a national report. And the same people who are now saying it's implemented are the very same people who are saying we now need a conclave. And let's be very clear, a conclave is a meeting held by the Roman Catholic Church to elect a pope. It is a meeting of cardinals. Let us also use words correctly, however we want to stretch them. My own view is we just need one simple thing: implement the Constitution and obey the laws. Once you do that, you don't need BBI, you don't need NADCO, you don't need conclaves. Perhaps what this country needs, because of our lack of fidelity to what we have, is a national conversation which will only have one agenda. Let us save ourselves from the hole into which we are stepping. Because when you come to Kenya today and you read your national newspaper and you are a foreigner, you think the elections in Kenya are 2 weeks away. If you are an investor, would you invest in such an environment?
Of course not.
In fact, our history is clear on those patterns. Every time we have an election, and the time keeps increasing, usually it was a couple of months before an election, you'd find economic activity slowing down. Then move to a year.
Yes.
And immediately after election, now there is literally no investment coming in because people are watching. And to exemplify this further, you will find that as we approach an election, there are very many embassies, very missions in this country send a lot of their staff out of the country back to their home.
Yes.
So you'd think we're at war.
Yeah.
And we have an election. It's not war.
Yeah.
Now that is how our elections are perceived. And yet, if you look at the actual process of casting the vote, it is one of the most beautiful days in the country.
Oh, yeah.
It's like a holiday.
It is a holiday.
Yes. I often can't believe the discussions I have when I'm queuing.
Yeah.
They are such honest discussions because we're not all voting for the same person.
Yeah.
And some of them, you talk to someone you know, somebody else joins the conversation.
Yeah.
Now, more so in the last election, I found more people talking because when you are a public figure, people talk to you. the discussion. The voting process is 5 minutes. I was there for an hour.
Because you are conversing.
Yes.
Good conversation.
And we had differences of opinion. My friend, the day after the election, God Almighty.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It is like the voting day was a part of the imagination. Why I say that the need for the citizenry to understand that political leadership will never serve anything in your interest if they're not checked. If they know they will not be held accountable, they will try and get away with anything under the sun. When they know they will be checked, our political leadership have proved that they cannot be trusted to implement and ensure that the things that the citizens voted for will be received. They cannot be trusted.
And City, you've put it so very perfectly, because the attempt by your typical Kenyan and largely typical African politician is to circumnavigate the constitution and the law and to operate in an environment where anything goes. And that is why, for example, in this country, you find them trying to go around the constitution. That is why they try to, as I said a little earlier, to constitutionalize the unconstitutional. Look at the Governors' Conference. It's a jamboree at which you'll hear billions of shillings have been spent. We are not a federal. America does not hold that kind of nonsense.
They don't.
The South Africans don't hold that kind of nonsense, and they know it is nonsense. Because if you look at the amount of money that will be spent by the governors during those days in Homa Bay, it will be in the billions, which could have supplied computers to possibly half of the schools in this country. But what do? We are creating this kind of the meeting of Moseses who are liberating their counties. And the truth is, if you look at many governance in that regard, they are unchecked. Look at what is happening in most of these counties. Of course, some governors do better than others and the administration. But the truth is, the level of theft and looting is amazing. The level of theft. That is why, for example, the MPs want the Constituency Development Fund. Nothing wrong with Constituency Development Fund allocated to the constituency. But the MP wants to control it. Because in each constituency, take my word, the MP is behind the companies which are trading with the constituency. You'll never see their names. The MCAs also want their own. The women reps want their own. The senators want their own. Everybody wants their fund, which they are using as slush fund. It's called, in America, they call it pork barreling, where you spend public money in public projects for the purpose of enticing the election. All this you are seeing empowerment and all. This is electioneering using public funds, because the politician thinks we are so stupid. That's how the Kenyan politician, that on average we the voters are so stupid that we cannot see through what they are doing. And people like you and me and City and others, they call us wachache wasiotosheka. So we are the minority who are dissatisfied, who are disgruntled. So the reality is, in all civilizations, I look at many people in the Kenyan administration who, if they were in Western Europe, they would have resigned. Because people will demand that they resign. Because they are not accountable. But here, the more reckless, the more vulgar you are, the more attractive you are
to the voter.
Professor, what is the role of judiciary in our democracy, specifically here in Kenya? We have seen them try to interpret the law, especially when they are met with the cases in the courts. But I don't know, do you feel like they're doing enough to ensure that we have democracy in this country?
All arms of government have been emasculated in this country. You've asked about the judiciary. We've been here when the judiciary was at its weakest during the Moi era, when you had individuals whom I can name like Dugdale. We call him Dugdale in our days, in a Luanized version. He was a white man who did Moi's bidding. We had people like Pritam Singh Brau who did the government's bidding. Then there was a period of emboldenment of the judiciary. And when I say the judiciary, they are individual judges, but to me, the judiciary as presently constituted is at its weakest. That is not to say that they are not good individual judges. No, they are good. I've seen judges who have been bold, who have given decisions which are commendable, but institutionally the judiciary has become very weak. And people have learned to ignore the judiciary because the judiciary is weak. The judiciary actually has made a judgment that premature electioneering is unconstitutional.
And yet
we are continuing as if nothing has happened. We have seen senior police officers ignore summons. If I was a judge, that individual would be jailed on the face, contempt in the face of the court. The judiciary is so timid, and it is sad. For the first time, I've seen members of the highest court in the judiciary litigating in their own courts. So the judiciary has become so weak, and because they have become so weak, their decisions are ignored, and because they have become weak and they are ignored, they are a danger to democracy. It used to be said that a country can survive a weak executive, a weak legislature, but when the judiciary is gone, then it is the law of the jungle, and but this is what we are beginning to see now.
But Prof, when we say the judiciary is weak, the understanding is that it wasn't always weak, or it wasn't always this week.
Yes, this week.
Yes.
Yeah.
What is it that is ailing the judiciary? Because, as you say correctly, the judiciary is well represented by specific and certain judges whose judgments, when you listen to, give you hope that this judiciary is functioning.
Correct.
But one doesn't need to hold one's breath on this issue, because you'll hear of another judgment and you wonder, how on earth did they arrive at this one? What is ailing the judiciary, if you can opine on it?
City, a number of things. One, we thought that changing the manner of appointment of judges would help to strengthen the judiciary. We thought that if judiciary or judicial officers are taken through a process of application, through a process of public interviews, that would strengthen the judiciary, number one. We thought that if you increase the salaries of judicial officers, then that would also immunize them from getting into the corruption cobweb. But unfortunately, what has happened is that the political class have ensured that even the process of application and appointment of judges is controlled by them. You look at the composition of the Judicial Service Commission, it is not proven, but there are suggestions that it is not merit that rules the day. So when one is appointed and has political godfathers, then one is likely to pander to their whims. Number two, we have judicial officers who are also in competition to enjoy the goodies of lives. And we know anecdotally that there are individuals who use their seats in the judiciary to feather their nest. And that is why we have had purges to remove this. And when that happens, coupled also with ethnicity, there are elements within the judiciary who think it is their duty to protect their people when they are in power. So those three things conjoined, the mode and corruption of the appointing processes, number two, corruption, and number three, ethnicity, are the combined factors that have weakened the judiciary as an institution. As I've already said, there are individual judges who still continue to come out firmly, and history will vindicate them over the years that they were doing the right thing. But the general thing now is that they are susceptible and easy to intimidate also. I've seen, for example, the leadership of the judiciary visiting certain places, and it gives meaning to what there's a Ugandan called Picho Ali, who in 1960s he was asked, and it was quoted by Dan Wadada that the so-called independence of the judiciary is a fiction. What we have is actually division of labor. and in Kenya, we are now beginning to see that more often. And then there is an English judge who said something that is very important to judges, that I view with apprehension judges who on mere matters of interpretation become more executive-minded than the executive. And that is what we have now in Kenya. Lack of courage, city.
Do I hear you saying, Professor, that there are people who are within the judiciary who have turned the judiciary into a marketplace.
Oh, yeah. We know that. And there are cases in the Judicial Service Commission exactly on those issues. Some of them, of course, is anecdotal, given the nature of corruption, is that once the two parties are satisfied, nobody wants to speak.
No, and it isn't receipted.
Yes,
So-
and it isn't receipted. And the ESCC,
Yes.
to their credit, have done their own investigation, and I think in one of their latest reports, the judiciary occupies at the enviable position of being in the top 5, I think. Top 3, so it gets a medal. Whether it's bronze or gold or silver, I think the police get the gold, and then the judiciary.
You know, there has been this discussion about how it is that our parliament has been captured. I am of a contrary view.
Mm-hmm.
The executive does not elect members of parliament. Even individuals who head the executive don't elect. They may influence.
Yes.
But there's a limit to that influence. If the limit wasn't there, then you wouldn't have such a large number of people who don't belong to the party that the individual who heads it is the president of, and the president of the country. When individuals who have had powers donated to them by the holders of that power, the people on whom the Constitution bequeaths that power, and they don't exercise it, my view is that they haven't been captured. These are people who have determined that they are going to sell the very power
we gave them.
Yes, they sell it, because when you hear of horse trading and things that happen, again anecdotally, who is putting a gun to your head and they didn't? I mean, this if and this is my point, if indeed a gun can be put to your head by someone because anecdotally again they've given you money, well, the people who gave you that power have a bigger gun to put on your head.
But City, you've said something that I had never thought about it that way, but I agree with you. I agree with you that this is a conscious decision. But let us start from one of the things that I think is part of the problem. You remember we said when we were making the Constitution that in order to immunize elected individuals and political and people from this kind of manipulation, let us finance political parties.
Yes.
But what we have in Kenya are not political parties. These are vehicles that are used periodically for purposes of acquiring power. That is why you discover that since 1997, there is not a single political party that has contested elections as a single political party. It's formations. It is either Kenya Kwanza or One Code or NASA or something. So that there is no fidelity to any ideals of a political party, and people are beholden to individuals rather than to political parties. So if you go to ODM, for example, they are beholden to their leader. If you go to UDA, they are beholden to their leader. If you go to Wiper, they are beholden to their leader. If you go to Jubilee, is a little bit tenuous, but they are beholden to this individual. So to whom do you owe allegiance? Not the people. It is these ethnic kingpins who I call low voltage warlords, because the only thing is that they don't have armies, but they control, they rule the roost. They can come and hoist your hand, and lo and behold, the people will ululate and say you are the chosen one. So once you have that, then they ignore the electorate. The electorate is no longer significant, and I think that the electorate must assert itself, and I'm very happy with this process where the people are now saying we want to recall our MP. I think it is an attempt by the electorate to say power belongs to us, and you can see the argument here that there are no rules to recall an MP.
They were watered down.
Yes,
in the Uhuru era.
But
completely.
The day we start to exercise that power, then these individuals will see that really our employer is the electorate.
But Professor, if you look at so-called mature democracies and the systems that they have, all those systems have somebody called a whip.
Yes.
And if you do not show fidelity to the party under whose banner you are elected and you disagree,
you're whipped. to toe the line.
There are consequences, even in those mature democracies.
Absolutely.
But you see, the fidelity isn't to an individual.
Yes.
All those political parties, if I may use a Kenyan term, have their owners.
Yes, indeed.
It's true.
And those owners expect you to conduct yourself in a certain manner. There are those who could also argue that what we see in Kenya is part of our evolutionary process. This is how we are evolving to understand politics, political parties, and how it is. And I think perhaps the best thing that could happen to us is when these forms of political parties fail, because then they become very instructional.
Yes.
You get to understand. I say this because America has provided us with an ongoing series of events as to what it is that can happen to even a liberal democratic system when the individuals forget what it is that this government was all about to begin with. And what they pursue are the very things that our people are doing. You pursue personal interest. So you elect someone who you believe will represent your interests, then the complete opposite happens.
Absolutely.
Now you're in for a period of some very serious learning. I think the process of democratization, in my view, even in this country, requires the sort of things we are seeing. Because you then understand fully, without being told, the consequences of this vote that you keep casting.
Yeah.
And the support that you keep giving. Because the understanding is that you will benefit as a citizen. So how long can you continue voting and you actually never see the benefit?
Absolutely. And City, you remember that this idea to party fidelity is not a new thing.
No.
The Turncoat rule in 1966, when Oginga Odinga and Kagia were crossing over, was introduced in order to tell them that when you go to another political party, you've got to go back to the electorate to gain fresh mandate
in this new party.
And we have bastardized and even when a political party actually goes against the grain, and that is how you must understand, for example, this marriage of convenience that has been entered into with ODM and the Kenya Kwanza is a marriage of convenience where one side of the mouth says we are not with them, we have merely donated our experts, and the other one saying we are with them. So you have this hermaphrodite of an arrangement, if you permit me, which negates the very idea of democracy and checks and balances. And perhaps you are right, if one has to be charitable, that it is an evolution process. And one only prays and hopes that it evolves into something, because one of the dangers that I see with this process is that even fidelity to the party is ethnic. I saw that, I've seen that in the saga that you find in ODM, for example, where the Secretary General is being reminded by elements within the ODM, some elements, without being rebuked by the party leadership in sustained manner, that this is our party, this is our tribal party. You go and ask your tribe to form another party. So that the evolution may actually spiral out of the rail and lead us into the direction that we do not deserve. But I think sometimes it is necessary for this kind of pain to be borne, for people to wake up.
Prof, you've stood for elections.
Yes.
There was something that you offered.
Yes.
And those who you sought the votes from, somewhere along the line did not quite see your point of view.
You know, City, I've written a book about it. and this is a testament to how naive one can be. Because I produced something called Sauti ya Kamukunji with my agenda.
Yes.
There was a man called Bruce Willis who was then the head of the World Bank.
Yes.
I went with him to the Kamukunji there, and he said that if you elect this individual, we are going to, through my private resources, to ensure that we modernize this. I held 250 town hall meetings talking to people. I had only 1.5 million.
Of your own?
Was given to me. 1 million was given by a man called Wala bin Wala. He gave me 1 million.
The author?
Yes, the author. I was shocked. And another one was given by my mother, who wanted to remain anonymous. I'll not say my mother, adoptive mother, who said that she should always remain anonymous. I spent only 1 million. And believe me, on the day of voting, and this is my naivete, the people that I was campaigning amongst were not voters in Kamukunji. They were resident in Kamukunji. But the Luo group had taken their votes in Kibera. The Luhya group had taken their votes in Westlands.
Yes.
The Kamba group had taken their votes in Embakasi. The other candidate had meanwhile registered voters in Kiambu and the periphery. And on the day of the voting, I meet people that I do not know who are the voters. so I mean, how can you beat that? The gentleman did not campaign, so I felt very stupid. And I think there are people who, even as we speak now, that is what they do.
Yes.
So that is why they don't even care, because even the people who voted for them are not residents in that constituency. That is true of most of these Nairobi constituencies.
Yes.
Voters are important. And in my particular case, it was very interesting. When the voting then started, the vote counting, ballot papers were strewn all over. And the candidate who was declared the winner was actually declared winner by court, and the number of votes cast in his favor, we do not know up to today. But that tells you that if you go there, good intentions alone are not sufficient. You'll be shocked.
Next time, perhaps if you ever join politics, campaign elsewhere, but go where the voters are.
No, I think you register your own vote.
Professor, chapter 6 on leadership and integrity.
Yes.
We have seen Kenyans who have got that integrity, and they're in leadership positions. But unfortunately, this country is not kind to whistleblowers or people who want to let me call it, be righteous as far as leadership is concerned. People end up dead, people end up disappeared, and so on and so forth. How then can we deal with that situation? Because it is a very huge part of a democratic space.
We keep on keeping on. There used to be a program on one of the national TVs a long time ago. See, you remember?
KBC.
Keep on keeping on.
Voice of Kenya.
Yes, Voice of Kenya.
Yes.
And I think we must not tire. The voices that we keep on, and this is intergenerational. If there are people, I mention it because he's my friend and was my teacher at one time. Look at the manner in which Professor Kibwana served in Makueni. Like him or hate him, he was clear, and you can see the dividends of his commitment to his people. The MCAs wanted to remove him, but he remained. He said, I am prepared to leave, but I'm going to do the right thing. So when you do the right thing, there is a sense in which people appreciate. But as it is now, people call themselves bad boys and bad girls in this administration, and that is meant to be a point of attraction. So I am of the view that it is not going to be easy, but Kenyans are reaching the tipping point where they are able to say that enough is enough. Why are they reaching the tipping point? Because, one, there is no money in the pockets of the middle class. There is no money in many households, and they are asking why. The level of insecurity, the greatest growth industry in Kenya today is our security guards, which tells you insecurity is there both in rural and urban Kenya. I grew up partly in rural Kenya and in Nairobi, and when I go to Eastlands, I talk to those young fellows, and I go there every 2 weeks, and I talk to them. They are graduates who have never ever secured a job, and they are 40 years of age in their parents' homes. And I think that people are beginning to wake up. When you saw this Gen Z revolt, if you may, and I saw that young girl doing the poll vote and crossing that razor wire, to me, that was an iconic moment. The message, the hidden message there was, nothing will stand in our way. It is going to be painful. It is going to be slow, but I think we are beginning to move in that direction.
Yeah.
And I saw recently when there was an attempt to profile the Agikoyo, people came out and say, I am Kikuyu. People are saying that. In other words, they were telling those who are trying to profile people from an ethnic standpoint, we are all is the same. It's just like, I think it is Martin Niemöller who said it after the World War II, when he says first they came for the Jews, then they came for the communists, then they came for the trade unions, and then they came for me. In other words, you must not think it is for them, it is for all of us. And this country is a beautiful country. If you look at even the UN saying that they are bringing their officers, is a vote of confidence on us. But how are we dealing with it? How is the political leadership dealing with it? So don't despair. I think that it is said in Greek mythology that when the Pandora's box was opened, the only thing that remained trapped was hope. So we must never lose hope. And there are many good people. The trouble with good people is that they tend to work in silos. They don't collaborate. Evil people know how to network. The time is now for good people to network. And I've told some of my friends who have said that they want to be president, stop it. Being president is not going to solve the problems of this country. Network. Let us ask ourselves what is the problem of this country and present a team to the country which is capable of saying, when we seek and obtain power, we are going to be a government of transition, will serve for 5 years, and none of us will ever seek election again, so that we repair the good things. But if you say everybody wants to be a president, they think they are Moses going to part Red Seas, they'll be disappointed. So I'm saying organize and don't agonize, and do so on issues. Agriculture. Look at education sector collapsing. Our own University of Nairobi is in debt of 13 billion. You are reducing the cost allocation capitation to university, and yet inflation has increased. I mean, it's something, we are doing things that nobody can understand. So I am of the view that the good elements within parliament must continue to raise their voices. I remember this, and City, you will remember this, both in parliament. There was a time when people like Jean-Marie Seronnet were lone voices in parliament.
Yes.
When people like Martin Shikuku were lone voices in parliament. When people like Bildad Kagia outside were lone voices. People and to his credit, even Oginga Odinga.
People like Chelagat
Mutai, they were lone voices in parliament. And in the religious sector, we had people like Maurice Cardinal Otunga, Alexander Kipsang Muge, John Henry Okulu, yes. Timothy Njoya. They were Father Ndikaru wa Teresia. These were there. And yes. When they issued a pastoral paper, pastoral letter, Moi would call them to State House and the country would calm down. Those voices are now far and few and far between.
Yes.
Now we have fellows who wear very big crosses and claim to be religious fellows, and they are called to State House, and when they leave you see them carrying some envelope which I've never looked at keenly, but I suspect
it's Sadaka.
It's Sadaka. So there is a sense in which we cannot afford the luxury. And media such as yours, because a country is built through debate. If you look at all revolutions, whether it's the Bolshevik, Menshevik, whether it's the French Revolution, whether it is the struggle for independence, there were warriors. And there were thinkers behind the warriors. And there were those who voiced. So we are in that space. We are on the cusp of something. My good friend Barack Okwaro Maina Muluka wrote a piece about 2 weeks ago about liberal democracy. And he said that when the American Declaration of Independence was said, we hold this truth to be self-evident, that all men are born equal. And then he says, it is for this reason that governments are instituted amongst men to do certain things. And when they don't do those things, it is our right to remove such governments.
Thank you so much, Professor. Unfortunately, that's all the time we had. Perhaps we shall invite you again to come and talk about the strategy the Kenyans need to employ, because clearly the one that they currently have is not working for them. Asante sana, Mungu akubariki.
Mungu akujalie kwa kuipa sauti.
Asante.
Asante sana.
All right, so
we're
getting into a break right now. Winnie Maganga is coming through with the news, and also in the next hour, or rather we're already in that hour, we shall be introducing another set of guests to have another conversation towards making this country better.
Radio generation, the sound is fine. Pump it up, turn it high all the time. Let the music move you, let's sway. Radio G's got your jam all day.
Radio Generation, the home of urban soul. This is the Radio Generation News.
Good morning, I'm Winnie Maganga. Police in Mombasa have arrested a man and a woman on suspicion of drug trafficking and intercepted a haul of marijuana in the process. The bust followed a tip-off from members of public of a suspicious parcel from a bus that arrived at the Mwembe Tayari bus station from western town of Homa Bay. According to the Directorate of Criminal Investigations, the two, identified as Pamela Akinyi Ochichi and Daniel Agola Ogwen, were arrested at the booking office after claiming the cargo. The two are in custody at the Mombasa Central Police Station awaiting arraignment. A security delegation led by Deputy Inspector General of Kenya Police Service Eliud Lagat and his administration police service counterpart Gilbert Masengeli has concluded a multi-agency security assessment tour in Mandera and Wajir counties. This is amid escalating security concerns in the northern eastern Kenya. The mission, which included on-the-ground evaluations, intelligence briefings, and inter-agency coordination meetings, comes against a backdrop of heightened threats from terrorism, organized crime, and cross-border criminal networks. In Mandera, the DIGs met with Governor Mohammed Adan Khalif, who outlined urgent security challenges.
Wajir is one of the safest counties in the country, and by extension, Wajir town is one of the safest towns, and we experienced that last night. All this does not come just like that. It is because of the efforts of all the security agencies, the cooperation that is existing in this particular area. The KDF, the National Police Service, and all other security agencies, Ngao, prisons, NPR.
Police have called on anyone with information on missing Wajir Assistant County Commissioner and Huduma Center Manager Hussein Abdirahman Mohammed to come forward. Speaking during a visit to the county of Wajir, Deputy Inspector General of Kenya Police Service Eliud Lagat said the missing case is still under probe. Mohammed has been missing since July 8, 2025. The High Court has ordered the police to find him and produce him in court by September 16, 2025. His family has filed a habeas corpus application seeking to compel the state to produce him.
What is happening is that the gentleman has yet to appear, but we've called upon anybody, especially Wajir, you understand, and we ask you to give any information. Mpaka saizi, the matter is under investigation. Na I call upon anybody who has information about this gentleman to give it to the police. Otherwise, it's under active investigation, and we hope for the best as the investigation apparatus deal with it. Thank you.
No amount of noise and opposition will derail our transformation agenda for Kenya, says President William Ruto. The president dismissed criticism of his administration's performance, insisting Kenya's transformation will be driven by tangible development rather than political rhetoric. Speaking in Kiambu County on Sunday, the head of state said government initiatives such as the affordable housing program and major road projects are designed to create jobs and spur economic growth.
Wanasema ya kwamba hakuna kazi inaendelea Kenya, lakini mimi nataka nimjue ya kwamba tutasimama kidete na nyinyi vijana. Mkimaliza kujenga hii, mimi niwapangia ingine, muanze kujenga ingine hapo.
Crystal Palace twice came from behind to stand a new look Liverpool and win the FA Community Shield for the first time on penalties after 2-2 draw at Wembley. New signings Hugo Ekitike and Jeremy Frimpong scored for the Premier League champions, but Palace responded through Jean-Philippe Mateta and Ismail Assar before winning the shootout 3-2 on Sunday. Mohamed Salah blazed over from the sport, while Alexis McAllister and Harvey Elliott were denied by inspired Dean Anderson as Palace build on winning their first ever major trophy by beating Manchester City in May's FA Cup final. That's the Truth on Radio Generation. Good morning, I'm Winnie Maganga.
The views and opinions expressed on this program are those of the guests and do not necessarily reflect the views of Radio Generation. Radio Generation assumes no responsibility or liability for the interviewee's views. This is Radio Generation. In the beginning, there was morning radio.
I've never seen anything like this.
But now there is Radio Generation's The People's Breakfast, curious and bold, getting facts from the shadows.
That's what it is.
Now, as the city wakes and secrets stir, a bright new voice shines. The People's Breakfast, your morning, your voice, your journey.
You got it locked.
Good morning.
Good morning, my neighbors.
Welcome to the home of hard truths and bold insights, Radio Generation.
Welcome back to Radio Generation. It is now 7 minutes past 8 o'clock, and as we promised, in this particular hour, we're going to be having another conversation towards making this country of ours called Kenya better. If you're listening to us, it better be on 88.8 in Nairobi, Mombasa 90.7, Malindi 92.1, Lamu 92.6, and of course Garissa 89.5. But remember, I always tell you that we are internationally recognized and accepted on rgk.co.ke. Joining us this morning is none other than Duncan Okach. He is a lawyer, and the topic for this hour is the state of the nation and which way Kenya. So Duncan, karibu tena sana.
Thank you so much. It's a pleasure.
Karibu tena sana, and I guess we'll just get right into it.
Definitely.
In terms of, because in the previous hour we were just talking about democracy with Professor PLO, and one of the things that came out, and we've always known this, but we rarely touch on it, is the civic awareness of Kenyans. People want to call it political education, civic education. Maneno ni mengi pale, but I think he rightly put it as civic awareness. Where do you think the country is at as far as awareness is concerned of our duty, our civic duty to hold leaders to account and other things that we're supposed to be doing to ensure that our country is performing better than it is right now?
Thank you so much for having me today. I think it's my inaugural appearance here.
Yeah.
And I think you're doing quite a good job.
Asante.
Now, in terms of your question, I've held the position that when Mzee Jomo Kenyatta came into power, he said there are 3 things that afflict this particular nation, and according to him, I think that was his vision, the equivalent of our Vision 2030. For him, it was to deal with those 3 things. Among them was what people call ujinga, upumbavu, or just lack of knowledge. And I think he did a very good thing, because essentially there was a movement towards ensuring that Kenyans are educated. Civic education is part of our curriculum, and we have gradually seen that the quality of citizenry that we have had has only but increased and become better. We have seen that people have known that political decisions affect them directly, as opposed to those days when people used to take a back burner and say it doesn't matter. At this particular point, with the infusion of this civic education, then came in free education. You are seeing a very, very, very elitist kind of a citizenry, and that is why you see we have Gen Zs doing things which other people are asking. During our days, we couldn't even think of these things. It's not like that. It is because now they have a commonality of knowledge. They may not have jobs, they may not have the financial muscles, but in terms of knowledge, it is actually something that they have, and that is why I will very well tell you without battling an eyelid in that we are in a very advanced stage in terms of civic knowledge or awareness.
Right. There's actually, you just caught us, City and I, talking about our president, Dr. William Ruto. He's addressing the country on every single issue. And I think it's a good thing, because he's keeping us updated. But I feel like the government as a whole, and not just President Ruto's position as president, but I feel like the government as whole, they are not focused on delivering. They are focused on looking for things that they can tell us so we can feel and see like the country is actually performing. We sat here with the deputy spokesperson of government, Gabriel Muthuma, and he was highlighting and outlining some of the things that Gava has done and has achieved, but those things are not being felt on the ground. Maybe you can tell us from your perspective, have you seen any changes in terms of whether it's development or just your existence as a Kenyan, that you can point out and say, this was not happening in 2015, for example, but in 2025, I'm experiencing this because of the efforts that this government has done?
To be honest, of course, we cannot say that the government has not done anything. Of course, there are deliberate initiatives by the government towards trying to put us where we are supposed to be. And just to be fair, of course, Rome was not built in a day. It is gradual. So, the only problem with this government is that it overpromised. When they were doing their manifestos, and I dare say, even if it was the ODM, if ODM was elected, they will still have faced the same. Because if you look at those manifestos, they were not realistic. It was just to persuade and to,
all the manifestos from all the presidents
across the board. It was just supposed to persuade you so that we deal with the problem after we have crossed that particular point. And that is why you see, whichever way you find, it will be very difficult for this regime to tell people that we are working, because you promised them heaven. You've not even passed the stratosphere here. But it will be very difficult. So they might be doing 1, 2, 3, fine. We might be seeing a lot of infrastructural development still continuing as we speak. But the problem is you overpromise. It will be very difficult to persuade any Kenyan that they are doing so. But more importantly, the problem with this regime is that it has also, the moment a regime inherits, or not even inherits, it actually gives birth. Of course, you've inherited the ills in terms of the past corruption aspects.
Right.
But now you also give birth to your own. And these children are now, you are the ones naming these corruption scandals. Then it will be very difficult for people also to say that you are a regime that is responsible, that is actually looking out to achieving what you promise in your manifestos. And if you look at the corruption indexes that you just saw the other day, and in fact that the index itself is corrupt, because you look at it and you feel like it's toned down. And the reality of it is that the mega scandals that we are hearing about, the potential losses that are happening at eCitizen, and the essence of just trying to persuade people that now, because you do not seem to feel any development or any agendas that we have put forth, now we will give you quick fixes. We'll actually just bring money, we'll give it to you. We'll actually bring goodies, give to you. But in terms of the actual economic effect, you'll not have anything.
2 hours ago, we were looking at this paper here, the Standard newspaper, and they were saying that Ruto Messiah games, and they are saying that he has got this savior syndrome, whereby he creates a problem, then solves it, and then now tells us, you see, nimefanya hivi. First of all, do you agree that is what is happening? And they've given a couple of examples. For example, they're talking about ID applications venye zilikuanga 100 before, then the government made them 1,000, then now made them free. University education, medicine, for example, medical students were paying 520. Then the government made it 612, and then now they've made it 450. You see, it's even cheaper than where Uhuru left it. Fuel prices, when President Ruto came to power, it was at 159. Then he made it 211. Then now it's 186. So there's this: create a problem, solve it, then people will think you're Superman. Do you agree with this headline?
Of course, the headline is actually on point, because the reality of if you look at it, and it's factual. You know, we always say facts are stubborn, and we may deny, but the walls will still tell you this is a fact, and that remains a fact. But it is also not right to say that all what he has done is actually to just create a problem and a solution thereof, because there are many other things that of course you'd give it to him, you know. But more importantly, in my view, you look at some things may have been even problems which he did not create, and solutions he did not also create, but he still takes the benefit.
For instance, what do you think?
For instance, you find that people said when he came in, the dollar was at around how much? All of a sudden, it has stabilized. The Kenya shillings has stabilized as against the dollar. But when you look at it, he was the first one who was attacking the previous regime on the basis of that aspect. Yet, it was very clear that the reasons why the dollar was actually becoming expensive were reasons outside the control of Kenya. They were external.
Okay.
But he was among the first ones to say that was not the position. Later on, people saw the stabilization based on what is happening on the external front, and it actually affected. But he will still come and tell you that, of course, we are the ones who have stabilized the dollar now. ABCD. Of course, it has gone to the aspect of even the cost of unga. Those common things. But you see, there's something that everyone has been saying during Kibaki's time. Kibaki's time, everyone says something happened. Kibaki was not so talkative. He was not there to always, advertise his achievements.
Yeah.
But you'd feel Kenyans actually will tell you that Kibaki was not dishing out actually money the way we were used. Moi was dishing out. Eventually, everything becomes expensive. Yet, because he's the one who is actually using this money, and it's akin to what happened previously in Uganda when someone said, "Why can't I just print money and give people?" without factoring in the economic aspect or the effects of such. So when Kibaki came and people said he was a bit mean, there was no money, he was not dishing out money, but eventually, in terms of the economic progression of this country, everyone felt that we are in the right direction. And I dare say Kibaki is a president who actually gave Kenya a tangent towards now taking off. Moi did not do a lot. Actually, maybe we actually retrogressed. But Kibaki took a tangent, and Kenya was now at a point of taking off.
Yeah.
What happened thereafter, of course, Uhuru regime, Ruto regime, we are still struggling, and because of issues which I think is just pegged on the type of leadership that styles that we have.
You know, when you talk about the exchange rate and what it is that determines the value of a currency, yes, the external factors. There's inflation. There's debt.
There's war in Ukraine.
It most definitely affects us, because there's a supply chain issue that at some point is going to affect us.
Israel and Palestine.
Believe me, it will affect us, but also our politics and the manner in which we manage our affairs, the manner in which we handle and manage our money. If the economy grows, the shilling stabilizes. Because when you talk about the shilling stabilizing, in the Moi era, the shilling stabilized. And there are people who claim that was the worst thing we've ever seen in the history of this country. That is actually not true. Because the external factors you speak of, that was the era of the Cold War.
Yeah.
So the politics, external, international, affected us very directly. That is the time we also experienced something we called, what did we call this move? I will remember the term.
Okay.
Structural adjustment program. That's what I was looking for. Okay? There are many things that the government, that Moi had to do. He was told. It was not a question of if and but and what. Okay? And it was tied in with governance. There are those who argue it helped us towards getting the constitution and getting back to multipartyism and so forth. But it is also what brought about a situation where the government had to sell off very many of its assets because it was a demand. I am of the view, this is my view, and I never cease to express it. Anytime austerity measures are prescribed by these Bretton Woods institutions, my friend, it has never benefited us. Never. We are not the only ones who haven't benefited from it. They don't work. You start an economy by ensuring that there is liquidity, that people have money to do business, and that the circulation is on an all-time high. Austerity measures does the complete opposite. So how on earth can an economy grow with austerity measures? Now, on the matter of what we judge a government by, what really are the yardsticks of judging a government's performance? What is it? Is it by the number of corruptions and scandals that they have, the amounts involved? What is it? From independence, every government has had a scandal in this country. And when people look at the amount, they say, oh, it wasn't much. Yes, it wasn't much then. But the strength of the shilling then and what it could do is infinitely more than what this shilling can do now in this present day. The considerations for determining what is right and wrong is not a straight line as some people would like to argue. This particular government is paying a very steep price for changing the rules by which we play our politics. They gave us a social contract and many social contracts that were documented in detail. So we have a yardstick by which to judge you because you told us and you wrote it down and we have it and we can quote it back to you. That's one. We may not have liked the manner in which they did it, but they brought in issues. Hustlers dynasty. Issue. The tribal factor that we normally debate on and the one which we pretend we don't debate and yet we do was slightly put aside. Indeed, we get it right when we say the bar was high. Very high. High hopes. Disappointments are factors of expectations. You raise hopes, you raise expectations. You don't deliver, you will be judged extremely harshly. And yet this government has external factors. We have a debt portfolio that no government in this country has ever had. Never, ever, ever, ever. Kibaki had his contribution. Uhuru got some 3 trillion of Kibaki's contribution. Uhuru did better. You hear me saying this? He gave us 6. Ruto comes in, he is inheriting 9. Some say 8. In this time he's been there, we're told every year he's added 1 trillion. So he's added 2 of his own. At this rate, as I keep saying, by the time we get 2027, he'll have given us 5. Okay? So whoever takes over will really have a very difficult time.
So, going by what he has said, KK, they campaigned on issues and they offered the electorate that particular issue and voters were corner. Now, the one thing that really was very prominent then was maneno ya bottom up. Wakaambua serikali ni ya mama mboga na mtu wa bodaboda na ule mtu ana shine shoes huko kwa streets. Now, my question to you is, are we that gullible as a people? Because we literally thought Mama Mboga will be at State House. I think that is what people thought. They literally thought Mama Mboga or mtu wa bodaboda ndiye atakuwa CS wa transport. But now they started getting angry when they saw, CS has been appointed wearing expensive clothes that probably would fund them for an entire year, And now here we are complaining about this government that we voted for and saying that they overpromised and now they are under delivering. I don't know. Shida ni sisi wa Kenya ama shida ni wale watu tulipatia usukani?
Outrightly the problem is us as Kenyans, and that's why it is that's why you see the Gen Zs are saying the problem is now you, our fathers, our uncles and aunts, because they wonder how comes we keep on making the same mistakes over and over again and still come back to complain. If you look at it, and history is always the best teacher, and it's your side mirror. You look at it and you find that when Kenyans vote, and they vote in a peculiar manner. When people wanted to in 1992, and people decided that what do we want to do? it was decided, yes, we need a multi-party democracy, and we fought and everything. When now we said, let us now vote in 2002, what did we vote? We just voted to ensure that Moi is out and any appendages do not get into power.
Right.
That was a singular reason. And that's why you were told we were, the most optimistic country at that particular point. Soon thereafter, we realized, as much as we praise Kibaki and everything, the politics of deceit was actually exacerbated by Kibaki himself immediately after he came into power. And that is something that he took over when you remember the politics of Mzee Jomo Kenyatta and Jaramogi Oginga Odinga. Again, it was the same issues. Later on, we were told by the time Boya was being killed, it was about the same issues. Now, Kibaki comes in and people are very hopeful. The first thing he does is bring that particular issue. The next thing they want to deal with Gidongo.
Yeah.
And every Kenyan believed at that point we will have a fresh start. So as much as we praise Kibaki, there are a lot of things that happened then. People think they've learned. We go 2007. There is already another aspect of now when it is clear that the elections have been stolen, we go tribal and say, I will support it regardless of that. You find Kalonzo Musyoka on this other side knows very well that that elections have been stolen, but because I'm going to have a piece of cake, now it becomes okay. Politics of deceit. There's no principality. There's no honesty.
I remember that time he used the same words Raila has used recently.
Yes.
He did it for peace.
We will reach there. Now, gradually, gradually,
yes.
we are past that. And then we've gone to 2007 and people are angry. These ones killed us. These ones burnt us. Then it reaches a point where now people say, because our people, both of them were alleged culprits at that particular point in the ICC, we are going to vote for them so that they don't go to ICC or remain ICC or are indicted by ICC. That was the sole reason for voting in Ruto and Uhuru and Ruto at that particular Uhuru at that point. The singular reason. Then thereafter, immediately after we did that, then people start complaining, oh, these people are not doing anything. Then fast forward, we reach a point where now Raila has, with his handshake with Uhuru, and he says, I'm doing it for peace because I saw myself in these issues and the country needs to be
united.
And back then, in fact, there's one part I've skipped. Even Raila himself moved, and at a point they had their handshake with Kibaki, and there was that Nusumkate government.
Right.
And what people saw at that particular point, still, it was about us, this community and this community, we can stay together and Kenya continues. Fast forward, Raila and Uhuru handshake. Again, people are happy just because our people are in government for the sake of it. Then we move forward now. Ruto has his own issues with Gachagua, and very fast forward, Raila again says, I've come in because I want to stabilize this thing, because Gen Zs have now taken over and the military might take over. There are all those issues. So I've done it for Kenya. It is a sacrifice. Soon thereafter, he tells you he's not in government. He tells you, but his people have been appointed to government. Experts in quotes. They've been donated there. Then he tells you, no, I'm not in government and we are not supporting government, but my people are in government. It's a mongrel of confusion, but it tells you that it's about the fact that there is dishonesty from all and sundry. And I don't know who else you'll
Can I ask you a question?
Yes.
Are you saying that no stability was achieved in all these handshakes?
And if I ask you, I'll answer, but I'll also ask you a question.
Ask.
Yes. Who tells you that if Raila will not have gone into government, there will be instability? What is instability? If it was about instability, remember, for us to even achieve multi-party democracy, people went to the streets. It's not the first time. For us to even achieve independence, people went to the streets. Any country has developed through, and that is why we started from in terms of civic knowledge or being aware, civic awareness. It has always it's been gradual. Even in America today, they are still doing so. So for the fact that people just said we want 1, 2, 3, and we do not want the finance bill to be enacted. What was so big about that? All you needed to do was to sit down with those people. First, you've refused. I'm not going to. You acceded. I'm not going to and sign or enact that particular bill. That's point number one. Secondly, there are other underlying issues. Let's sit down and deal with it. Were they demonstrating so that Raila can go and sit with Ruto and share power? That was not the intention.
You seem to be blaming Raila for these handshakes. It's like you seem to be implying that he talks about a situation which doesn't exist. You are suggesting that there was no instability, and he's the one who came up with the idea of instability so that he could have a handshake. Is that your position?
No. Of course, he has always been the author of instability. That is a fact. But this one for the Gen Zs, he was not part of it. This one, no one even knew how, and even now, government is still confused. How did these people manage to marshal themselves in this manner and come and they spoke with one voice and they were so coordinated? It is still a mystery today, even to Raila himself. But the only thing, Raila became an opportunistic person, and that's why, for him, he will really have a very difficult issue in terms of his legacy vis-a-vis the Gen Z.
I have to ask a different question with regards to what you're saying. You said Raila has been at the heart of the instabilities that we've had. During which periods was Raila part of this instability that you speak of? And how did this instability manifest itself?
When we elections were stolen, Raila always said it is his election that was stolen.
So
a government was sworn in rightly or wrongly, but it has been sworn in.
Raila said the elections were stolen.
Yes.
What did the Supreme Court have to say? In 2007, it didn't go that way. We had all these UN types and everybody coming in to give us the first broad-based government and so forth. There was definitely instability.
Definitely.
Now, you're saying that it is he who caused it by saying his election was stolen.
It is he caused it, not by saying his election was stolen. We had a constitution. And the constitution says if you disagree with that election, you do not go to the streets, you do not fight. What you need to do first, file your petition in the court. And that is the civilized way of doing things. And that is why when he had challenges thereafter, he actually filed, and it was confirmed by the Maraga Supreme Court team. And he felt satisfied. I'm justified. So the moment you refuse to follow what is anchored in law, then the opposite of it is anarchy. And in terms of how law came to be, it was because without the law, man is brutish naturally. Man will actually resort to any other way of self-defense and self-survival. That is what Socrates even indicated. But the moment he declined, automatically, and that is why with this anarchy, they had their handshake with Kibaki. But we do not, personally, I always say it is not right that an election is stolen and you keep quiet. But the best thing first, have your legal processes in place. If there's an issue with this legal process, find a way of dealing now with it. And that is why eventually it was good that we now had a new constitution. We actually dealt with some of the issues we had. And it may not be perfect, but we are somewhere. Fast forward, you find that Raila himself, once Uhuru and once Ruto and Gachagua were elected, immediately thereafter, in fact, even during the swearing in, there were already chaos left, right, center. He was at the center of it, of all these demonstrations.
The Sufria
demonstrations. Yes. You create something and you now say, I will move with it.
But instability. Are we saying that when people protest, it automatically translates into instability? Because those protests were in Nairobi.
Not at all. It does not translate into instability per se.
Yes.
But it is if you look at it from in terms of the effect point of view.
Yes.
The moment those protests were there, nothing could happen in Nairobi. You not even coming here would have been an issue. And in terms of the economics, people who have businesses, if you look at the indexes, because the facts are there, it tells you how disruptive protests are. And personally, I always say, if you have protests and they are legal, it is supposed to achieve some sort of disruptions or attention, which is quite okay. But that's why I've indicated, ideally, through that, it gave birth to the issue that the NADCO report, and eventually gave birth to the kind of mongrel that we have in terms of a government, which Ruto himself told you you'll never see it. In fact, he castigated Uhuru Kenyatta and went all the way to Britain and told people that this one will never happen. You can never have an opposition inside a government. Soon thereafter, we have exactly that, and he says it is okay. So if the equation is peace, and you know this issue of peace is what Kenyans were lied to by the Moi regime, and that's why you say we were very okay, and I've heard you say, during the Moi regime we were okay, things were stable. Remember, the issue was...
that is not what I said.
Oh, I've misquoted you.
I said the dollar was stable.
Oh, the dollar was stable.
That is what I said.
Thank you.
Yes.
So in terms of the economic aspect, the dollar remains stable.
Yes.
And people are so happy because also stability in terms of peace. Kenya became the hub of peace in terms of the continent.
Yes.
And we were very proud of that. But deep underneath, we were really digressing in terms of the economic aspects, and that is why we are told that countries which we were at par at that particular point actually are, worlds apart in terms of where we are economically, because we were being told it's just about peace. And that's why I always say, if there's an issue, the right to protest must always be maintained, and it is covered very well in terms of the constitution and in terms of what is required, and it has achieved a lot. So protest by itself is not an issue. The only issue I will have is a protest like the ones for the Gen Zs. It was very clear. The issues were very clear and circumspect.
Yeah.
And with devoid of resolving those issues, and if Raila would have just wanted to come into power, this was not his protest. If he's the one who had led and said now we are going to create a solution together, it is very okay for him to go into power. But you see, those issues for these particular youths were never addressed. And the problem with the government now, you'll find that when there's a semblance of, that issue of stability, let me use City's words, stability, that is a false narrative in terms of stability, because deep within there's still anger, there's still issues, and you'll find that even when Ruto went for the burial of Phoebe Asio, together with Raila Odinga, there are still protests, there are still chants there of the people who are not happy, and it cuts across. So if people assume that now because we are in power together and everything, that translates to now actual stability, deep within the minds there's constructive instability within the minds of Kenyans, and that thing is just something that it's a gas that has already leaked. It only waits for one matchstick,
then it blows
and
up.
it will explode. So the government should not sit pretty. Like now they've given us those solutions. We'll have a multifaceted kind of meeting, intergenerational conclave. That's the beautiful word that was crafted. And then very shortly thereafter, what are you hearing about that? Is not even there. And that's why I'm saying the same issues will remain. But the beauty about it is that, like we have always said, Kenyans have gradually and consistently made the same mistakes and voted based on emotions or other factors. But when it comes to 2027 and 2032, the youths or the Gen Zs who have now been educated very well, they are now moving towards making that decision at the ballot.
Really?
Yes.
How do you know this?
I know this because if you look at history, and I've told you about history, if you look at the voting patterns, youths were the lackluster. Even if you look at those lines, it was actually youths were saying it doesn't matter. But now they have actually taken matters into their own hands, and they are saying this thing now affects us directly. For the first time in terms of this particular country, you are having people who are less than 21 years old, but who are at the forefront. If you look at even in leadership in terms of even within the parties, you are finding that youthful members, youthful politicians are actually fighting within those parties now for their voices to be heard. And that is what we is supposed to be. And I'm happy in places like, Nyanza now with the union of Raila and the declaration by Raila Odinga that, of course, it's Ruto up to 2032, you'll find that will bring...
Raila said it's route up to 2032.
Yes.
I missed that one.
How did you miss that one? Raila said, and it was a declaration that he said during Phoebe Asio's burial, that those people saying one term don't know what they are saying. as far as they are concerned, their relationship will transcend past 2027. And if you look at even the headlines, I've even
the
seen
relationship will transcend 2027.
Past, yes,
but he did not say 2032.
After 2027, where are you going?
No.
The stage will be 2032. There's no other place.
That's extrapolation. The relationship they have of working together may not necessarily mean working together even if Ruto is president. It could mean working together to put somebody in place who they support. I'm simply saying you have narrowed it to a Ruto presidency, and I'm saying the working together may not necessarily be for a Ruto presidency.
When Raila has said, those people saying one term don't know what they are doing.
That means
he has challenged the one term.
more than one term.
Yes, he has challenged them, but he has not said 32, has he?
City, in politics, let me tell you, what someone has said, he may not even say it outrightly, but he has said it.
No.
The moment you go to Nyanza and you tell those people that the issue of one term is something that we are not... Let me finish.
You are talking about a constitutional change here, because our presidency has 2 terms.
Yes.
32 brings in a 3rd term. That's why you see me shaking my head.
How does it bring in a 3rd term?
What he means is... he will support Ruto to seek a 2nd term in 2027.
Yes.
And he will be president till 2032.
Yes.
That's what you're saying.
That's what I'm saying.
Then you and I are not in disagreement.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Then after that, the finance minister, CS, has actually clarified that outrightly. In black and white.
CS Mbadi.
Yes.
What
has
did he
actually
say?
now said, and I've even seen it just here in your studios. But it's still actually there. And he said it outrightly that our relationship, we are going to support Ruto up to the 2032. From
So
there
2
is when
terms.
we'll make our decisions. Now, the implication of that, in terms of the question that City asked, is that in terms of opening the space for liberalism, it is a very good thing, especially for places like Nyanza. Because for the first time, you'll have parties that support Ruto, support Raila, will actually front candidates. And there'll be that choice of, candidates. It's not like you'll be vilified because you have a different party outside ODM.
Yeah.
It is actually something that will be good. And if you look at also generally the number of independent candidates that manage to get elected, gradually it has increased. And it is my view that even these particular elections that we are going to in 2027, 2 years to come, majority of these youthful people will actually vie from the independent perspective.
No. That assumption does not have any supportive facts to back it.
What he has said, what did you say? For the sake of...
I've indicated that independent candidates have gradually, the number of independent candidates being elected has gradually increased. And in 2027...
Seeking elections or the ones who've already been elected?
Seeking election and now the ones who have been elected. You must start by seeking the elective posts. It increased because of the issues we have with political parties and the independence therein when it and democratization when it comes to the elective or nomination processes.
So your prediction is that in 2027 we shall have more independent candidates?
Because many more independent candidates, and most likely than not, they will actually be voted for. And the reason for that is because gradually, and everyone outside here, if you speak to politicians, they'll tell you, internal democracy is not there in any of these parties.
Now, that is the point City is disputing.
Yes.
City, you're disputing that point.
I am actually, because the largest voting bloc we have in this country are the youth.
Yes.
By far. In the last election, the so-called 8 million votes that were told were never cast by people who had registered. The majority were the youth.
Yes.
So, there is this assumption that is being made that because of the Gen Z protests that we saw last year and the Gen Z protests we saw this year, that very many people who fall in that category of Gen Zs will vote, which means many of them will register, which also means the voter registration process will be ongoing and that people will get IDs. These are assumptions.
Yeah.
But the biggest is that when it comes the time of actually voting, they will vote. I am casting aspersions. And I'm saying there is absolutely no evidence whatsoever that the young people are going to vote in large numbers. There is nothing to support that view. What we have is young people who are completely disenfranchised by this government and the thing this government stands for. They're completely disillusioned with the promises that were made that in their view are clearly not being kept. But as for them, voting. I'm not even talking about voting as a bloc. Just voting.
Are you saying it's because they are apathetic, or they do not have the cards to vote, the ID cards rather, or they... Yeah, actually, those are the 2 points. Either they're apathetic or they don't have
the
capacity.
Discussion is not just a question of them voting. The question is, this is a group of people who are perhaps far more enlightened about the political situation, if you're given the age bracket, than other people in other generations who have been of that age bracket. And if you compare their level of understanding, this is the term you people use, the most woke group that we have. The understanding with that, and why it is a discussion point, is that when they vote, they'll be voting issues, and they'll probably vote for change, and they'll vote for people who are perhaps youthful. I'm doubting any of that.
Let me just correct it. You know, he has said there is no factual basis, but what he has said is actually the factual basis. He has said we have never had such a woke Gen Z generation as now.
Yes.
That by itself tells you...
No, it doesn't. It just tells you they are aware. It doesn't tell you they are going to vote in a manner that will bring the change.
Awareness is actually what was lacking, and that's why we started.
Not necessarily. We are aware that corruption is a negative thing, and yet we still bribe policemen. We are aware we shouldn't bribe officials at the Lands Ministry to help us, but we still bribe them. Awareness doesn't mean a change of behavior for the positive. It just means you know.
And that's why I'm telling you, with the Gen Z group as we speak, now that they are they are actually enlightened, now that they know that they want to participate in terms of the decision making process, and that I really pray that God keeps us, so that I come here after 2027 and we look at the facts. If it comes to IDs, let me tell you, and those facts are there, IDs are now being issued in droves. IDs are now being given to these people, even if you manage to, if you reach the age bracket of 18. When you're in school, issuance of IDs has actually gone up. In fact, that's why there was a problem in terms of registration, because people said, let IBC be set up. These people now, they have IDs. But the only way to move forward is to actually be able now to get their voters card. Remember, Raila started a very good narrative that why then do you want to force people who have IDs to go and get voters cards? Why can't I vote using my ID? And the issue therein is because of the fact that we have many youths. He's actually endearing himself to the youths who now have IDs, but they did not have a way of registering. These people will register, I can tell you, in droves. And if there was no factual basis of that, Ruto will not be having what he had in State House on Saturday, something just for the youths. And because everyone knows that these youths will actually determine who becomes a governor, who becomes an MP, and that is national-wide, not even in terms of just Nairobi or Mombasa, or it is in each and every elective seat. Let me tell you, the prize, if you get the youths, you are already one step inside. Theory. Then, let me tell you, it starts like that, but it is actually factual. And that's what I'm saying.
And that they went to State House, my friend, proves my point exactly. These are not the fearless, whatever less that they are. All
tribeless, fearless, partyless.
The moment the youth, what I saw tells me, the unity we saw in last year, done dusted. They are going to go the way of other people, and they are going to join these political parties that actually are properties of individuals. They are going to join. And
actually,
they have joined already.
As you respond to CT here, there's also this other narrative that is coming up, saying that the young people come voting day. Right now, we are all partyless. Right now, we are all tribeless. Right now, we are pointing fingers at the different leaders. We are pointing fingers at Martha Karua, Kalonzo, Matiang'i, Nani. But come voting day, I will, retract back to my cocoon, and I will vote as a Kamba. You'll vote as a Luo, and they will vote as Luyas, and so on and so forth. Do you foresee that?
You see, that's the mentality that we have, and that's the difference, and that's why it will be very difficult to convince people. unless we are now at 2027 and that those facts are put on the table. Because for us, we always believe when we'll make noise, but when it comes to voting time, we'll actually vote. And that's what I've said is the problem, is the cancer of our politics. Because we now go back and vote in terms of emotions, in terms of tribal, in terms.
Is it the reality of our politics?
No, it's the cancer that we have, and that is what has always taken us
The
back.
cancer can be our reality.
Yeah, it's the reality, and it's just like the reality is that each family, you know, one or two people who have been afflicted by cancer or affected by cancer.
Yeah.
It is a fact. But in terms of our politics, that's the problem that we have, and that is why the radical change will actually happen with these particular agencies, because when and right now there is an effort to try and dilute that. I agree with City. There's an effort to try and dilute and ensure they don't speak with one voice. But the beauty of it, and I've told you, it is still an enigma how these particular individuals manage to marshal themselves, deal with an issue, and move towards ensuring that issue.
It's an enigma to those who don't understand the age in which we live in.
Yes.
This is the communication age.
Yes.
And the people who are the kings and queens and emperors of this age are that age group.
Yes.
They understand. They were born into it. They understand it. Some of us still struggle with Google. Okay.
Yeah.
Then they went beyond it. They understand AI. They're even related to AI. So how people talk about.
You know, you're arguing my point, City.
I know I'm
arguing my point.
I know I'm arguing your point. Because you see, I'm arguing facts which I know. Yes. This is factual. The aspirational view that these young people will bring about change is what we anticipate and hope.
Yeah.
But I am saying there is no evidence to support the fact that people call a fact that they will vote in a certain direction. And I am seeing it because they are Kenyans. You see, let me give you an example of what I mean, something that is easier to understand. Anecdotally, it is said there are two groups that have been at the heart of political issues in this country, the Luos and the Kikuyus. Okay? It was said when Raila said Kibaki Tosha, one part of that story was that no Luo will vote for a Kikuyu. That one was said, this one has been sorted. But there was the other bit. The Kikuyu only vote for their own. Okay? See, when such statements are made, it is assumed that you know exactly what every person in this community does. Those statements are not true. They're not true because in each of those communities, there will be individuals who vote elsewhere. They may not be in large numbers, but they exist. So to generalize and speak as though it's a patented fact is not true. Then come the last election that we had, and President Ruto gets very many votes in central Kenya. So that myth about that community not voting for anybody else, again you say, but they voted for somebody who's not from their community. If that is the evidence that we're using to say that, you know, this generation doesn't really care about this community because they were the majority of people who voted, that's evidence. You can say, if you look at the number of people who voted and the age bracket they fall into, it means we are seeing a change. But in my opinion, the change came with the platform on which this government got in, what they were preaching. The issue, you may not even have liked it, you may have thought it was negative. They said, hustler,
dynasty.
That's it. That's issue. You may not like the issue, but it's an issue.
You know, there's a saying that the absence of evidence is not evidence of absence. The absence of evidence is not evidence of absence.
What is it then?
It means that if I may not have the evidence today, but it doesn't mean the evidence is not there. I may not have it here.
That is true.
And if you look at it, when you say that the voting in 2022 was actually based on hustler and dynasty. I beg to disagree also.
How then would you categorize that particular election? Remember, I was specific to a certain voting block.
And I'm going to that voting block. Let me tell you, they did not vote because it was about dynasty and hustler in terms of the central area.
Yes.
The central area voted like they always vote because of some perceived negative hate or issue about Raila. That is
So they were not voting for
they
the
were
hustler.
not voting for the hustler. It was
They were
against
voting
Raila.
against Raila.
Yes, they woke up and said, if Raila would have moved and was supported by Ruto, they would have voted for any other person on this other side. That was the issue at that particular point, and that's the reality when it comes to Central. And they will tell you, they will actually tell you. For I don't know what happened. I don't know if Martha Karua says it's an oath that was taken, but there's just something that Raila has done so much for that community. I can tell you.
Walikula kiapo.
He has given whenever even he got Mundusu Mkato, he gave them more. He's always but there's just something that jinxes that relationship that he has, and that is the reality in terms of the Central aspect. And that is why they'll be so angry today. Let me tell you, Gachagua was not liked even by these particular people, and that's where Ruto went wrong, because initially Ruto got these votes not because of Gachagua. That's a fact. Not whether he picked Kindiki, whether he picked Gachagua, whether he picked Martha, whoever he would have picked. As long as Raila is on this other side, he would have bagged these votes. Then the only issue that comes in is that now, once he has, and Rigiji was not liked during his deputy presidential period, but the moment now Raila again shook hands and he went into bed directly with Ruto. That hate that they have with Raila actually now moved with Raila. Ikamka and moved with Raila towards Ruto. And that's why many people will tell you, it's not like we like Gachagua, but there's that issue that we just have where Raila is, as we are on this other side. And to that extent, even if Raila would have moved in and was with Gachagua on this side, someone else would have actually become the darling of this community. And actually, that's a fact, unfortunately. And that's why we said the only difference that we'll have in this politics is when we have politics from these young people who can come together and say it's not about tribe, it's not about those old things, it's not about your second name. And these are people, let me tell you, the intermarriages that have been happening today. When you look at most of these Gen Zs, you'll find is someone will tell you where if you say it's about Luos, I'm a Luo stroke Kikuyu, I'm a Luo stroke Kalenjin, I'm married personally to a Kalenjin, my child will say he is who, you know. It is about, we have reached a point where with the civilization that has happened, the integration that has happened, people are moving beyond even the thoughts of Kenya.
There's actually someone, I think it was a panelist, aliketi hapa akatuambia that kuna watu wamekuwa elected for a very long time in certain regions of this country just because they are against Raila. And we're talking about MCAs.
And that is just because they are supporting Raila.
Yeah, so we're talking about MCAs, we're talking about MPs, senators, and so on. As long as tu usimame tu mahali na useme
Raila
kidogo
I hate this man.
Even if you do not have any issue or any agenda for the people, wewe ndio unapata kura.
So you're saying the Gen Z will overcome this?
Yes.
Well, it's my hope they will. I honestly
they have overcome it, and that's why
when I say Gen Z, I'm not referring to Gen Z from a particular region.
Yeah,
I'm referring to Gen Z in the whole country, because are they going to overcome this stratified way that we have had as the norm in our voting patterns? That is my question, and that's where I'm casting aspersions.
And as you answer that one, because look, we have Gen Z, you know, wale Gen Z tunatambuanga sana ni wa Nairobi.
Yes.
Lakini tusisahau kuna Gen Z West Pokot.
Yes.
Kuna Gen Z Mombasa na kuna Gen Z Kitui huko ndani. Mwenye hata maybe hata hajaifika Nairobi, anasikianga tu Nairobi kwa TV akiona Sakaja. So watu do we think that the Gen Zs of this country are connected?
They are connected.
City answered that.
They are connected. That my friend,
it's a word.
Take it to the bank.
And when I say
connected,
I don't mean connected to the internet. Connected in terms even of agenda.
Yes.
Like
they are connected. Yes.
Right now.
Yes.
They have a common enemy, my friend.
Yes.
They have a common enemy. But does that determine how they will vote? You see, the whole process of voting will be put to the test when they are able to overcome all these things that have created and have been what we know as the norm of our politics. And if we are going to say that they are not influenced by it, if we can, and there's evidence to support it, this change we're talking about, it'll be bigger than you think.
You know, City is very skeptical, eh?
Yeah, I've noticed.
City anasema tu ngojeni muone 2027. So I don't know whether he's saying that so that he can come out and say, okay guys, you've proven me wrong, or he's saying this so that come 2027 after the election aseme unaona
bana this is not unaona situation. It's not at nilikwambia na ulikuwa usikii situation. No, it is not that. It is understanding human beings and how they behave. When I'm hungry and I'm looking for food, I will think in one way. When I've started eating, I'm not even full. I'll think, when I'm full, I'll think completely different. When I'm guaranteed I'm going to eat tomorrow, I will think very different from when I'm full now and I'm not guaranteed I will eat tomorrow.
Okay. You know, Jesus Christ, and it is biblical, you know, indicated that ordinarily, you know, man believes in seeing is believing. You know, you can't just believe, and it's very difficult.
Okay.
And again, there's an English saying that change is the only thing that is permanent. That one will always come, and that is why
I want us to take a short break. I'm so sorry. We're taking a break. Tufanye news kidogo, alafu turudi bado tuendelee. Now, in case you've just joined us, this is Radio Generation, the People's Breakfast. The topic is the state of the nation and which way Kenya. Hilo ndilo swali tunauliza. City Muga is in studio, and our guest today is lawyer Duncan Okach. I am foreseeing these are the kinds of conversations, by the way, that will either break or make this country. So if you're listening, tafadhali pia utupatie maoni yako kama msikilizaji, tuambie which way Kenya.
It's 9 o'clock.
Radio Generation, the sound is fine. Pump it up, turn it high, all the time. Let the music move you, let's sway. Radio G's got your jam all day.
Radio Generation, the home of urban soul.
Good morning, I'm Winnie Maganga. Treasury Cabinet Secretary John Mbadi has defended the government's plan to compensate protest victims and their families. The CS described the move as just, timely, and in the best interest of Kenyan people. Speaking during a fundraiser in Suna East, Migori County, Mbadi argued that the initiative is grounded in constitutional provisions, especially allowing for the establishment of an emergency fund based on need. President William Ruto last week unveiled a team to develop a framework for the compensation of Kenyans killed and maimed in protests since 2017. Constitutional lawyer PLO Lumumba has sharply criticized Kenya's democracy, rating it 3 out of 10 on a good governance. He blamed entrenched tribalism and political hypocrisy for blocking genuine youth empowerment. Lumumba also raised alarm of alleged unconstitutional actions linked to the NADCO report signed by Raila Odinga, calling for urgent restoration of constitutional order and political accountability to save the country's democracy. He was speaking during an interview on Radio Generation's People's Breakfast show.
NADCO report is is nonsense. I'm looking for a better word, but I can find none. It is nonsense. It is nonsense on stilts. And the people who came out with it, and they say this is a national report. And the same people who are now saying it's implemented are the very same people who are saying we now need a conclave. And let's be very clear, a conclave is a meeting held by the Roman Catholic Church to elect a pope. It is a meeting of cardinals. Let us also use words correctly, however we want to stretch them. My own view is we just need one simple thing: implement the Constitution and obey the laws.
The National Police Service has expressed concern over a sharp rise in fatal road accidents across the country, warning that most of the crashes could be avoided if road users exercised greater caution. In a statement on Sunday, NPS said it is working with other state agencies to conduct thorough and expeditious investigations into the recent incidents, which have left at least 48 people dead in just 1 week. The service noted that the crashes have caused immense suffering to families and stressed that every possible measure must be taken to prevent further loss of life. According to NPS, the majority of accidents could be prevented if motorists and pedestrians avoided risky behaviors such as speeding, dangerous overtaking, drunk driving, overloading, driver fatigue, and careless road crossing.
Literally, I mean, we have lost quite a number of lives. I think this we must talk about in the same spot. And we seem to just be burying our heads in the sand, hoping that things will improve. And I want to call upon the relevant agency of the national government, Kenya, to be specific, to redesign that road, because as it is now, it is a death trap.
It's an accident that has taken many lives, countless lives, and it's something that the roads authority, the police, needs to do something, and do something very, very urgently.
Meanwhile, several leaders from Kisumu have called for road redesign and school bus inspections after a tragic crash killed 26 people in the county last week. They are also calling for the removal of roundabouts along the Kiboswa-Mamboleo stretch, calling on authorities to act swiftly to prevent further loss of lives. One person has died in Turkey after magnitude 6.1 earthquake struck northwest province of Balıkesir on Sunday evening. An 81-year-old woman passed away shortly after she was pulled out from the rubble in the town of Sindri, which was the epicenter of the earthquake. Turkey's interior minister said 16 buildings collapsed as a result of the tremors and 29 people have been injured. Turkey's disaster management agency said the quake was recorded at around 1953 local time, 1653 GMT, and was felt as far away as Istanbul. And that's the Truth on Radio Generation. Good morning, I'm Winnie Maganga.
In the beginning, there was morning radio.
I've never seen anything like this.
But now there is Radio Generation's The People's Breakfast. Curious and bold, getting facts from the shadows.
That's what it is.
Now, as the city wakes and secrets stir, a bright new voice shines. The People's Breakfast. Your morning, your voice, your journey.
You got it locked.
Good morning.
Good morning, my neighbors.
Welcome to the home of hard truths and bold insights. Radio Generation.
And that's very true. A very good morning to you, Nairobi on 88.8, Mombasa 90.7, Malindi 92.1, Lamu 92.6, Garissa 89.5. How are you doing? Find us on across all our socials. That is Radio Gen KE on Instagram, on X, and on TikTok as well. In studio, we do have City Muga, lakini tunaye mgeni Duncan Okach, and the conversation is around the state of the nation. In the previous hour, we were actually, CT was actually insisting that things might not be what they seem or what we think they are as far as our voting pattern is concerned. And yes, kuna historia Gen Z watakuja wafanya maajabu wakati wa election, lakini CT ana insist that maajabu ni kana kwamba kile tutakuwa tuna expect hakitafika. But of course, lawyer Duncan here is saying that this generation is woke enough and they know exactly what they need to do. They have understood the assignment. Is that not so, Duncan?
That is so.
That is your sentiment.
That is my sentiment, and okay. And I like even the name of this station. It's Radio Generation.
Yes,
the generation is what we are talking about, and even when you're coming up with that, I believe that aspect of generation meant something.
Sisi ni gen zote.
Exactly. And when you talk about that, it means you are alive to the fact that there are different generations, and there's something that makes them apart. And that is why I was saying that, when you have the issue of change has always been there.
Yes.
And many people do not embrace change. And that's why it finds you and, you are left dumbfounded. If you look at when we were told that the world was round.
Yes.
Many people said, what is this guy talking about? Is this guy crazy? Is this guy, And they said, where is the evidence? And at that point, he didn't have concrete evidence. But later on, you find that truly he was right. And gradually, there was evidence to prove.
Yeah.
He may not have had it at that particular point. So even now, of course, the reality of man is that we very easily, it will be very difficult sometimes to believe some of these things. Like when people were being told a long time ago that, when you take tea, because people used to still take tea and whatever, but there's something sweet called sugar which you can put and it does what. Later on, people loved sugar too much that it is now the source of a lot of our problems, So in moderation, but change always comes. When Adam was quite okay and with Eve, but the moment they decided to taste the forbidden fruit, they realized they are naked. And that is when change came, and they were quite okay, and they had to now get clothes, and now everyone has to put on clothes. So the reality of it is that even at this particular point, that change with the youths will actually come. And we will live in, God willing, we will live in that particular dispensation, and we will see. Whether the only issue I will have is that, yes, you may have this idea that you want to change, but you are changing to who? Is it for the better? What happens after that? Okay. Because it should not come back to what we always do. Kenyans vote emotionally. I'm voting against this person or against this particular group of people. But after you put that person in power, is it an end by itself or a means to an end? What happens? And that's why I'm saying at this particular point, it is only important to know who is this that will capture those aspirations of the youths and commit to actually achieve ABCD. At this point, we do not have, and that's why it may be difficult for me to persuade City Muga today that there is this particular group that will coalesce around this particular individual. But it's too early.
Actually,
it's still too early.
I want us to talk about City Muga's generation.
Yes.
Do you think, because ndio hata nasikia Gen Z wakisema wataenda kuficha IDs za wazazi wao na IDs za their grandparents so that they don't vote the same way they've been voting, because they believe that it is akina City Muga and the way they've been voting why we are here today. So, I don't know. Do you agree, first of all, with the fact that generation yao kidogo ilikuanga inatupoteza ama ndio imepoteza hii country ikatufikisha mpaka mali tuko?
Kwani constitution mnafikiri ilitoka wapi?
That generation, of course.
Nauliza wakili. City wanataka kujichapa. I need protection.
You know, you'll get protection.
I need to be protected, but yes.
But you know, the reality is that, of course, we slumbered too much during that time, and gradually people started becoming woke, and that's why we had we ended up with now repealing Section 2A. It is a fight that has been there, but even then, you didn't have that, you know, kind of support, and very few people like Raila Odinga will.
Excuse me.
Yes.
You're talking about an era which you didn't live in.
Yes.
So now you're talking theoretically. I lived in it. Ask me, I will tell you.
City, we have people who were not there when the Bible, things in the Bible were there, but they still will tell you and will preach to you, and you will actually.
So you're comparing.
So it is not a must.
You're comparing with some biblical characters.
Methuselah.
But you'll have a right to correct, because at least you lived in that era. But
what the biblical era?
No. In during the time that Section 2A was being.
How old does this guy think I am?
The white hair is deceiving. but during that time, realistically, I think that was the time that we started, you know, moving into the right direction gradually, and it has, and I think we are still it is, you know, perfection is a moving target. We are still moving towards that particular point where we want to be, but gradually that generation, we can't blame them too much, you know. At that particular point, that's why I've said education has really helped. Opening up of these spaces in terms of the internet spaces, it has really helped. City Muga lived during those days. They used to only have KBC and even
VOK,
VOK. Actually, thank you, VOK. And it used to start, I don't know, at 4 p.m.
and end at midnight.
End at midnight.
No.
So information
is ended at 9.
Yes.
After the news.
Oh, 9 p.m.
At 9.
Yes, that's why I told you. Refer things to somebody who lived in that time. You people are hypothesizing and guessing.
But
and the TV was black and white.
Was black and white with a very big. Yes. But you see, the information era at that point was restricted, and government also gave you what they wanted, and that's why the first news whatever item was about the president doing this. So you believe this is a very good person. Now people can compare not only with Kenya but even outside. That thing has really helped. So we can't blame them. But I think with the advancement in technology, it is so easy now for you to reach a person in Turkana when you are here, and at least that person will understand what you are saying, will understand that this thing is affecting me in this manner or that manner. And that's what I'm saying. With that web, it can be used for positivity. It can also be used for negativity. But if it is tapped properly, the way I believe it will be tapped for 2027,
yes,
and beyond, the only thing is that they should not just come and vote because we have a common agenda and we feel this government is not, helping us. But But the issue will be, who are you voting for? Do you have one of your own? Do you want to vote for another octogenarian? Do you want to vote for another politician who has always been there? Or do you have someone who can come with, with a new board? Someone will say was not even there, but can actually bring change. And I think any of these politicians you are seeing today, most of them are connected in one or another. They'll never change. You'll vote in one, they'll still bring this other one tomorrow.
You're a young person, and when I hear you speak, I lose hope.
Why will you lose hope?
I lose hope because you are missing the point completely. You are thinking like my generation. The very generation that the Gen Zs who are younger than you are criticizing, you are thinking like us. You're thinking like people, my father's generation. There was a time when the sort of leaders who are elected fitted the bill of what you're saying. They actually were conscious and they were sensitive to the needs of the people. And they are the ones who gave that false impression that leaders will be that way inclined. Change came about and we didn't see it. Leaders stopped being those almost selfless people because at that time there was no salary to speak of if you're a member of parliament. Council members who are now MCAs volunteered to be there.
Wait, members of parliament didn't get a salary?
No, they got a salary that was very small. There was nothing big or grand about it.
It has always been big. It's only that.
No. Even in those early days, believe me, it was not anything to jump up and down about. Believe me, it was not. Just do your homework, you'll find out. What they could do was probably buy a car. And what you're right about is cars didn't cost that much. But they didn't live grand lives. Not really. It was a service job. When I say councillors were volunteers, even when they started paying councillors, the amount was something that would be the equivalent of a stipend that you're being given, not a salary. So these people had the interest of the public. The public good was part of why they got into that job. It was like a calling. That changed. And people understood that this was a job where you could actually enrich yourself. Now, with that change, the need and the demand for a certain type of leader had to change. But we are stuck. We are still saying we want leaders who will do these things. They exist. And even when they campaign and when they are elected, the electorate is not stupid or foolish. They elect correctly. They elect people who have shown signs of being the leaders that they want. Unfortunately, that is not the ethos that we have now. In the absence of a very, very stringent accountability mechanism, it doesn't matter who you vote in. The moment that person enters, the ecosystem they're going to exist in will influence them. There are those who resist the influence, but statistically they're almost irrelevant, but they exist. The vast majority, and that's why we complain, it's not that they don't have the ability to do good. They know they can get away with doing what is not good, and so they do it. So when you speak about getting somebody who has good qualities, believe me, these people who are elected are vetted. People know them. Forget the ones who the party decides should be elected, and people figure, okay, the party has said. Many of them even have good track records. It's not as though they're useless people. But the ecosystem understands they will not be held to account. That is why they wake up in the morning and the first thing they do is give themselves more money. And they don't think it is a problem when you look at the lives of the people they're representing. Now, that's why I'm saying, if I hear someone who is much younger than me, like you, who has that view, then I am afraid.
Let me tell City why I think factually is very wrong. One, those days you may not, even today, the salaries in civil service is not supposed to make you rich. It's still, that's why it's called civil service. You are a civil servant. You're supposed to be a servant. But many people will go in there, not for the salary. The means, it is giving them a means to make much more.
The opportunities within there.
And that is exactly what was happening during the councillorship. Those guys got land like no one's business. Those guys were, they could control. Actually, they had much more power than MCAs of today. Those guys could whip you. In fact, you didn't need it to be even an MCA.
Those powers was
you just needed to be. It's not constitutional. Yes, but that is what was there. Kanu youth whips. youth wingers could whip you like no one's business. They were like police by themselves. So that is why people went there. But people go into politics.
You're extolling abuse of power
not for
here.
money only. There's something called money, power, and respect. So that those three items combine into one. So City looks at it from only the money perspective, but there are three other those two other aspects. With that power, you can misuse it and still get more money, and they used to. But leave alone that. The issue that I'm telling you here is that if you talk about checks and balances, don't we have checks and balances today?
Do we apply them?
No, leave alone. First of all, the first question is, do we have them? Yes, we have them. Do we apply them? They are there. They are being applied, but they are applied in a manner that is selective, in a manner that is influenced. And that's why I tell you, if you look at EACC now today, EACC has been weaponized. It is fighting political battles. EACC will give you a report.
That is the ethics and anti-corruption.
Yes, okay. It will give you a report, but it is not even there. Yet they are the most corrupt entity. They will be number one by themselves.
The EACC.
EACC itself. And it does not rank itself there. If you look at the only check and mechanism that we will have that you can actually stand by is the power of the vote. And that's why you are told, yes, you have gone in for 5 years. After 5 years, these people will make a decision and say you did not live up to the standards you gave us. But there's also the recall clause, which is also there, which is still, again, if you don't, we have this power. These are the checks that should be there.
Which IBC told
and
us
again,
there's nothing we can do
now
about
you're
it.
being told by IBC there's 1, 2, 3. But you see, these are the mechanisms that we should strengthen and ensure that, if I vote for you, you will not have a blank check that you'll actually just go and do whatever you want to do. There's a point where now we can actually recall. But if you deny us all these, there's a space where we call under Article 37 where we can protest, we can demonstrate, and we will still be heard. Those are not the checks that a citizen will have. Anything outside that will be unconstitutional, will be extrajudicial, will actually be wrong. And that's why I'm saying, when it comes to that point, you can't lose hope and say that now because we the checks and balances are not working, we'll not vote. You'll still have to vote. And that's why we are saying the issue is who will. Each city is saying these people are there. Let us see who wants to vie. Let us make our selections from there. Because if you have only devils...
But every electoral cycle, Duncan, we do this.
No, we do this, but with the same people. Let me tell you, you talk about from Mzee Jomo Kenyatta. When you talk about Kibaki, when you talk about Moi was still with them. When you talk about Kibaki was even a vice president previously, was always there. When you talk about Uru was still there together with his father. When you talk about Ruto was there from YK 92. When you talk about Raila has always been there. So you see, it will be recycled. When you talk about Kalonzo has been part of KANU. That's why people say KANU is still leading us and will still lead us, like Moi said. Yes. The only paradigm shift that you'll have is bring someone who does not have these particular strings. And that is when you'll have. And that's why sometimes people say countries like where there was a meeting in this African country where we have this young guy.
Oh, you're talking
Burkina
about
Faso.
Burkina Faso. You can see everyone is saying, by the way, wait a minute. This is not actually a very bad idea. Yeah, because sometimes you may need that to reset that button. Because sometimes, like City says, maybe all of us, and I always tell people like man, we always told man has, everyone, even the Pope, you have half of you has the potential of being a very bad person, the worst. Half of you has the potential of being a very good person.
A saint.
A saint. It's only how it will be, what will be tapped. And that's what I'm saying. We may have, these are human beings. We cannot vote in robots and everything. We have all these checks and balances. But when all we have tried and everything has failed, sometimes we need either to bring someone outside the box. And personally, that's why I'm saying, if Gen Zs can come and tap into someone who has not been there, and that's why maybe they're leaning towards Maragaish. Maybe that will be a solution. Someone who will not actually have these particular strings that if I touch you, you have another button you can
when
press.
When you look for this person, are you going to be looking for someone who is, will it be an intergenerational consideration or will it be a Gen Z consideration? Because if you're electing somebody of my generation, that one is already tainted.
Anyway.
Are you saying Maraga is tainted?
Yes. Yes.
But look for the better devil.
No, there's something
if all
about
of them are
those
devils
who wish to be presidents of this country, which in my opinion doesn't speak well of the presidency we can expect from any of them. They come in as individuals. These countries you keep quoting, Singapore,
Malaysia.
There was a leader who stood out, but they were a group of people who had the same belief. Group. I repeat, it was not, there was a leader, yes, but a group of equals. This guy was the first among equals who had the same belief, same understanding. The closest we got to seeing it, though it wasn't announced that way, was the Kibaki era. And I'm going to give you why I'm saying this. The guy resurrected former retired civil servants and brought them in. By the time you retire, my friend, you've been in that thing literally all your working life. Yes, so you do know. So there was a difference there. The governments that came after, Uhuru said, why don't we give this thing a chance and bring in, professionals? That thing went south very quickly. This government came in. Now, this one didn't just go south. It went south, east, southwest, and any other south you can think of. South, southwest, and so forth. Where are the leaders who are coming with a group of like-minded people? Because that already tells us that this is a person who understands the check and balance and accountability. Gen Z were deemed as dangerous because they introduced a form of accountability we had not seen. That's what it was. It's accountability. You have this thing you're calling a finance bill. What on earth are you presenting here? What about this? What about this? What about this? And loudly, but peacefully. That protest was a party. How it became dangerous, I don't understand. Now, that is what I am talking of. Because if we regurgitate the narratives that have given us leaders, we are regurgitating the same political situation that we are in. We are encouraging the big man syndrome where the somebody has to come and save us. And actually that is not what we need. We need somebody who will work with us.
But who says Maraga can't be elected and then he resurrects the people just like
I
he
did not say that the candidacy of Maraga is flawed. The generation he belongs to is flawed. They are infected. If there is a viral disease and it is something, that's why I'm referring to viral, and it's airborne, the likelihood of you being contacted by that virus is very high. We saw him make a statement once and said this election isn't quite what people are saying. We're going back to it. That elevated his status. And I am grateful it did. That is a completely different kettle of fish from being a president of a country.
Now that we're speaking about CJ Maraga for a minute, there's someone who was saying that perhaps former chief justices, actually former judges, shouldn't be allowed to run for office. Why? Like high office like the president, for instance. Why? Because what if during their career as judges, they make judgments so that they can align their agendas towards them becoming president one day? For example, Maraga nullified that election of 2017, right? What if he did that so that when he vies in 2027, he comes and says, guys, may I have integrity? You see what I did in 2017? So I don't know what Justice Kome, whether she wants to be in politics in future, but what if right now there are things she's doing as the president of the Supreme Court that will allow her to be a governor in the future, or even the president of this country in future? So I don't know what your thoughts are, because you're a lawyer. Unaona kama former CJs wanafaa kuwa akipatiwa usukani?
Personally, I even don't understand why someone would argue in that manner, because political rights are inherent and belong. Any person will actually be expected to enjoy them to the fullest. It does not discriminate.
Ex-judges have the same rights as every other citizen.
As every other citizen.
I know. That's what I'm saying. Someone was saying that perhaps maybe that needs to be revised. Because what if today Martha Koome, as the president of the Supreme Court, through her office, one way or another, and of course a lot can happen, but what if today she decides to jail someone like Matiang'i, jail someone like Kalonzo, jail someone like Martha Karua, na wale wengine wote ambao tunajua wanaweza kuwa competition yake, then in our jail for 20 years, wengine hata wapatiwe 30 years, so that in 2032 she can vie unopposed. What if? That's just a what if situation.
She'll have set in motion something which will catch up with her. This is what often
Exactly.
happens. That precedent, you set it.
Because all of these individuals
with you very fast.
all these individuals have got cases in court.
Yes.
Sindio?
Yes.
Wote wako na
Majority.
majority wako na makesi. And wapatikane tu uone tu kesho Kalonzo ameshikwa guilty, jailed 50 years for whatever corruption that happened in sijui
Mbuvi,
when.
may I say something? You've mentioned politicians, die-hard politicians, and what you may even refer to as your typical politician. What if we talked about Kivutha Kibwana? Because his track record in managing a county would give me hope that this
Yes.
man can manage the country.
Right.
Okay? I cannot say that of all these other governors we've had. Most of them, you get the impression they were given a job which was beyond them. So they've just been trying to figure out what to do with this job. And while they were at it, misappropriate as much money as you can, just as you're sorting out your mind as to how to help these people. Now, why is it that somebody like that is unelectable as a president in this country? What does it tell you about us? And that's a man with a clear track record. That's a man who's willing to tell his MCAs, his parliament, tell them, guys, you can do what you want, but I'm not moving. How many governors do you know of who can put their foot down? They always complain, MCAs are always blackmailing you for this. What have you done that makes them be in a position where they can blackmail you? Why? We have people. When I say we have people whom you can look at, we do have them. People who have actually stood their ground, and you can say, this person stood his ground on this matter, and it's a matter of principle. Maraga is a shining example of somebody who ruled that this election was flawed. Our elections are always flawed. Always. There are laws about how much you can spend. We did away with that law so that we can now just spend it the way we like. There are ways in which you're supposed to do certain things. We ignore them. There are people who have track records. Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission says these people are not eligible. We ignore all that. So what am I saying? I'm saying when somebody makes a stand like Maraga, it is right that we should understand that he has stood out. But then there is the thing about being a president. And that one, you must show us your team not your vice, not your deputy, the team, the people who support that agenda. And so we can say, all right, his decision-making process is flawed, but he's right on this and this and this. But so long as it is you, you have given us insufficient information to judge you.
I think also, in terms of, I'll just deal with the two.
Yeah.
One, in terms of how a Chief Justice can influence. One, the mechanism is that we have 7 Supreme Court judges. So a decision by the Supreme Court is not a decision of the Chief Justice. It's a decision of the Supreme Court, and it is about majority. So, and they can even overrule the Chief Justice. The Chief Justice can belong to the minority. So it can never be that the Chief Justice can just make a decision and that becomes the decision of the Supreme Court. No. Each of them independently apply their minds to the facts that are there and they make a decision. So that one, you'll never see it. That level of abuse will not happen in Kenya. But more importantly, in terms of what CT says, and I'm happy because I said he argues our point. He said in that generation there's a problem there. But at least the person he has mentioned to you tells you that there might be that problem, but it's not everyone who got infected. Some maybe got those vaccines early enough. Someone like, I agree with him, Mwalimu Kivutha Kibwana. Very decent, someone who does not, he did not enrich himself. He's still very humble. You can find someone like that and they coalesce around him. But again, the beauty of it is that that's what I'm saying. Right now, even if Kivutha Kibwana will say that I want to offer myself, or Okiya Omtata and the rest, their teams will actually crystallize towards the last year of the elections. And that's when you'll find people saying, this is my team. These are the people I'll work with. These are the potential CSS and all that. So that you don't only vote this person, but you vote that particular team. And that's the idea that the Kenyans say that Kitambo, we just used to vote for you. Now we want to know your running mate. And we vote for you as a team. But it has gone further. And that's why even in the US, even before someone gets elected, you can know these are the people who will potentially make those decisions. Yeah. So I agree. The only issue that we have, and that's why I'm saying the Gen Z is the route out of this, is for you to vie as a president. And Omtata said he'll try to get, I don't know how much. People laughed at him and said he doesn't understand these things. You need, a very good Amari in terms of money. Kivuta Kibwana doesn't have it, Tatas don't have it. The people who have that money are the same circle. How they got them again is questionable. But again, for some reason, they used to still get votes because they can buy it. They used to use the money and they get their way. But if the Gen Z come with an agenda, it's not about money, it's not about tribe, it's not about... It is about you. We will even contribute to money. Obama did not even have money. Obama was even told if he doesn't succeed at that time for being a senator, actually he was going to have issues in terms of his marriage because he was just there, just doing politics and social mobilization. But once people believe in you and you have an agenda, it proves that people can coalesce, raise the funds, and you become a formidable force.
But
so
right now,
in Kenya,
Maraga is, he's doing that crowdfunding thing.
He's trying to do
he gave us a pay bill.
Yes, he gave, and that's why I'm saying that's the route. But the issue is he's the one who's trying to harness this Gen Z kind of vote. But like City says, there may be some other issues that people will have. But that's what I'm saying. Whoever they coalesce and they work together, because it might be a team with Maraga tomorrow with Kivuda and someone else. They might coalesce. But that team, if they come together, and they have someone who will capture the aspirations of the Gen Zs, getting to power will not be the issue. But thereafter, the issue will be what City has said. What will they do with that power? Because if you give these people, in fact, it will be very dangerous. You give these Gen Zs the hope, and they vote for you en masse, and you get to power, and you disappoint them. Your regime you'll actually face more problems than William Ruto is facing.
Yeah. And I totally agree with you. Because now Kenyans know what to expect in terms of not Kenyans rather, but the leaders who are going to be vying for positions. Usituambie kitu najua huwezi kutupatia. However, there's also this other situation whereby yes, kuna zenye tulipromisiwa na as much as tulikuwa tunajua ni ufala, lakini bado tukapiga ile kura. But now there are other things that happened even after KK government came into place. More lies were created. In my opinion, I'll call them lies because there's no way you'll tell me tunua gas 300 and I think it's now 2 years later. Actually, it has gone up. Women were promised diapers for their children. Yeah, that one is still something we're still awaiting. So you see, those are things that the current government keeps on doing, and I'm like, really? Yeah. So in your opinion, do you think they should just get to a point whereby they shut up completely? They only talk through the spokespersons, whether it's state house spokesperson or it is the government spokesperson. Lakini tuache kuona prezo, tuache kuona ma-CSs, wafanye tu kazi. I don't know what's
but which regime has not been lying? Even the Kibaki regime.
No, all of them. I'm sure even Trump lies at one point. Yeah. But what I'm saying is, at this point, if you get too many
you see the problem with Kenyans, and that's why I'm telling you, it's an issue of man wanting to have hope or be optimistic. Because without hope, you are dead. There's nothing else. It's even written in the Bible. And to that particular extent, that's what I'm saying. When Kibaki said zero tolerance to corruption, everyone was happy. Soon thereafter, that's the issue. When Ruto and Uhuru came in, they promised everyone laptops. Those are the people demonstrating now outside here because they were lied to from the time they were very young in school. So right now, the things that they promised are coming out as lies because they are not fulfilling. But the manifesto is there. Like City has told you, we have it. We can read it to you over and over again. It will not go away. And you are not doing this. Yeah. So even if they shut up, it's still worse. So to them, they are saying, a drowning man will clutch at the straw. Don't blame them. They have to try something. They have to bring some money in terms of empowerment. Let us try. Let us go down. At least we went down fighting. But you can't just tell them and you think, and their politicians just shut up and just accept that you actually did not do anything. No, they will try. And maybe it will endear to some people. But the only issue is that previously, those things used to happen. Uhuru brought this issue of, delivery of service and even put it on the Mtandao and everything.
It's actually called delivery.go.ke.
Yes. It's something that the advertising aspect started at that particular time because you want to. And because it's so... And when you find that you have to really, reiterate what you have done, there's a problem there. Because the moment you have to bring it and put it on billboards and everything, it means actually there's a question mark there. Because if it is touching everyone, it will touch them and everyone will tell you, by the way, I'm feeling this. They've done ABCD. But for this government where it has reached and the time that remains, of course, 5 years, the reality is that 5 years is not enough to achieve a lot of what these people are saying.
Yeah.
It was actually extremely ambitious. And the reality is that many people get into power believing they'll stay there for 10 years. And that's why some people are telling you, Kwani, are we foolish? Are we the only ones who will stay here for 5 years? For us to deliver, we'll need 10 years. And that 10 years, we'll achieve it through hook and crook, which is very bad. Because someone believes with 10 years, I'll fulfill my promises. And that is happening across the board, even to MPs, MCAs, and governors. But that's where the problem lies. Because I should give you promises that I can fulfill within the 5 years. But again, the problem comes to us Kenyans. When someone comes with such a manifesto, the means of doing that, we are not interrogating. It is like, and that's what I'm saying, I like the Gen Zs. They didn't just say the finance bill was wrong. They actually interrogated and said it's wrong because of A, B, C, D. There's a flaw here. And they gave you the nitty-gritties. As we are going towards the next election, the same team, and that's why I'm very optimistic, they'll use their same eyes to say, you promised 1, 2, 3, you did not fulfill, and you had no means of fulfilling. Now you are promising us this. They will go and tell you, what is the means of fulfilling this? Are you going to borrow? Are you going to borrow domestically? Those questions will actually give them an answer, and they will make vote based on, or even ensure that people create manifestos based on what they can achieve within the foreseeable future in terms of the 5 years that the constitution is going to give you.
I see CT looking at as you're giving that answer, and I'm wondering, CT, what's on your mind?
You know, this process that we are speaking of,
the election
and everything around it, and the leaders and those who want to vie for electoral positions, it's a very seriously multi-layered discussion.
Okay.
You see, why you hear me sticking on this particular point of a presidential candidate telling us the team, not his deputy, the team. So we know ahead of time. The Constitution doesn't require it. But this thing of somebody becomes president and then you hear and you're wondering, where did this person come from?
Yeah.
They were vetted. And with the exception of one person who somebody didn't like, everybody who is who is appointed, they go to parliament, you know they're going to be appointed, and you're thinking, you know something, we really do need to vet these people in our heads long before they get to parliament. We're the ones who are elected. Because when we elect you, you're telling us we've elected all these people, and we haven't. Because they are going to function on our behalf. They're supposed to be providing services for us. And the beef is they are not. See, that's the quarrel. They are not. And so we start asking, okay, this person. And yet sometimes it's not that person's problem. That person may be very competent and very able. But their circumstances or the ecosystem they find themselves in, it doesn't matter how much they try. Now, every time we talk about this government, do we actually look at that multi-layered thing that I'm talking about? I'm calling it a thing. Governments are all a continuum. It doesn't matter who you are. There will be things you will start, but you will never finish. It doesn't matter. The person who comes in will finish it. If things work in their favor and all these other variables we're speaking of align in his favor, they'll be a very good president because they will have achieved things that somebody else was not able to achieve. But yet, you will forget who started it. Kibaki did not have the constraints that Moi had. The Cold War was over. That's why he could go to troop to China. Okay? Because he also had knowledge again, and now his intentions become clear. You realize this is a man who said, we are not the uncomfortable things. We are not doing any development in this 1 year. We are suspending any new development. We're trying to see what we can sort out with what we've already started. No one is giving you money. You come to State House, you drink tea, eat mukimo, go home. Okay? You want money, go to the bank. And what did he do? What government is supposed to do? He made it possible for people to borrow money. How was this also made possible? Government decisions. Remember I said, he resurrected retired people, brought them in key positions, people he had worked with even before. They knew what to do. That's the team. Their allegiance was to him because he was the appointing officer, but you could see the delivery. Then somebody out of the blues was brought in, somebody we didn't know about. He becomes minister. Man, you have a scandal to beat all scandals. And suddenly, that government is tainted. Kibaki did something that most people don't do. He let his ministers go. Told you, kidogo, as we look at this thing. What am I saying? There is no government that doesn't have issues. It's not the issues. It's how they're dealt with. Because that's what we look at and say, this person, the intentions, and you wish this guy should have had one more term. Because the trajectory he had started off on.
Very nice.
But you see, what is forgotten, the check and balance we speak of was in that handshake government. This guy had an opposition in government. If you look at the way the two camps related, if something went wrong on this side, these fellows would shout very loudly about it. Very, very loudly. That was a handshake where there's a check and balance. And that's the difference between these ones we now have. These handshakes are handshakes of collusions. They're not a check and balance like the Kibaki one. These are the details I'm talking about that when you look at and you judge. When you are saddled with an 8 to 9 trillion debt as you start, what should your priority be? Where this government now gave the country an image that they were not happy with was their spending. You're telling us there's no money and we are seeing you spend. See, we relate to things we know. Tell me I'm a million, I can understand. 1 billion, you've lost me. 1 trillion, now I'm completely lost. When you buy a new car, I know you're buying a new car. And I know how much that car costs. When you buy 10 of them, I know exactly how much you've spent. See, you can tell me it's a small fraction of our revenue. That is too huge for me. How do you buy a new car and you found cars that were already there? Why aren't you using those ones? This is how a citizen thinks. It's called conspicuous consumption. Some call it a vulgar consumption. Then when it's accompanied by what we call a primitive accumulation of wealth, people feel these fellows did not mean as well. Now, unfortunately, how is it displayed? The way people who are given positions speak, and you wonder, what is wrong with this person? What is he saying? Does he know how it's going to affect people? Then you shoot in the leg, and people say, did you have to say such things amidst the problems we're having? Go back to factory settings. The people you came in with, they are the ones who help us judge the head of the country, because we're saying you are the one who appointed them. We're talking about an election that is supposed to come. Who do you hear talking about what the country needs and what we need to do as opposed to what you are going to do? Because the moment someone opens their mouth and they're going to do something, then we haven't moved an inch. There's nothing that has changed.
Yeah.
That's not the discussion. The discussion began with the problems that we have and how they will be tackled. And it isn't building dams or building new schools or changing the education system or changing the way the universities might. That's not it. The university was functioning. The question that is asked is, all these changes that you make, are you saying that you couldn't have taken whatever required changing and changed that? Did you need to overhaul the whole thing? Because then that speaks of you trying to demonstrate that you're doing something new. But is it new? Because what a university does is educate people. So are they being educated better as a result of the changes you've made? Are children learning better? Are their futures more guaranteed? The CBC system, children lost a term and more because of the confusion. Lost. They didn't learn. Unless somebody has a clear mandate of how solutions can be provided and is willing to talk tough and say, this cannot work, this is what we need to do, this is how we need to go about it, we need to live within our means. Kibaki is spoken of fairly because he was clear. We'll only borrow 5% of what we need. Clear. There's no ifs and buts. And you can cross-check. Central Bank of Kenya and Treasury, believe me, report very accurately these things. Most people don't read and they know, so they don't know. They report, they tell you this is what we've done, this is what we have, this is what we owe. You don't have to guess. They tell you. Now, when you have a situation where you are constantly budgeting for money we don't have, it surpasses our revenue every day. My friend, this situation of pending bills will never end. Because people spend anticipating money which doesn't exist. And then you have debts. This government spoke about an audit for these debts. Just to say, okay, what do you... And the reason was because there was this discussion on what you call odious debts. Debts that the citizenry are being made to pay, and yet they need to enjoy it. Aror Kimwarer, $2 billion, which never even passed by the Indian Ocean around Mombasa to go somewhere. It never came here, never. You're paying for it. What else are you paying for? You see, these are the discussions. When you say you're going to solve these problems, if people see you addressing them, they'll feel, this guy actually means what he's saying, because we will see. But if you're piling on top of it, and we know that there's a debt burden you inherited, and you're adding to it, what does that tell us?
So basically, Okach, then, from what he's saying, what does the current government need to do or have to do so that, and I usually like using this word, we can feel like they are performing? Ni nini watafanya or to convince otherwise?
You see, the problem is if they decide to now do what you expect them to do at this point, you will not be able to feel it because of the timelines. And the political considerations come in very fast because they only have 1.5 years actually to prove all that, or barely even 1 year, because the last year is just actually a campaign period. You may not do so much. So looking at this period and for the government to do something that will be tangible outside what they have done now will be very, very difficult. But it doesn't mean that, you must do everything for political expediency. Do what you need to do. Let history judge you. And that's why I always support the fact that Raila said, that issue of the Mau forest, I will stand and say, if this is what will make me lose votes in the upcoming elections, let me lose those votes. And he actually lost those votes because of that. Votes which were perceived to already should have been his. And that's part of why he and Ruto also parted ways. But in terms of history, it has always judged him as having made a decision which is principled and not for political expediency. So even this government at this point, they need just to do the right thing. Leave the issue of Vipindi Mingi, leave the issue of just looking at trying to persuade people and convince them, because it may have worked that time, but now they're in government. It would be a hard sell. So at this point, it is what you have done. But time is not with them. These are things they should have hit the road running with. By now, there should have been something. But let them do what they need to do. I'm happy that they are really working towards ensuring that now, with all those issues, at least Kenyans will benefit. And the reality is that to a large extent, many Kenyans are benefiting now out of SHA. I think the current CS is actually finding the ills of that system, because the problem was not just the system itself.
Are you okay with the fact that they got rid of NHIF and introduced SHA in its place?
Let me tell you, the idea behind SHA is a very brilliant idea. You go to UK, you go to any developed country, that is what you want. But the problem is that they didn't think it out. They didn't do a dry run. You just come, and that's what even happens with this education. They just brought something and they're introducing it very fast to say and to get gain and for people to say this is a good thing. But you've not actually internalized. Before you even start something, there must be a dry run. Test it first. Look,
Duncan, there was a dry run.
That's what I'm saying. If you look at the dry run in terms of the issues of the dry run,
yes,
the dry run should have run and brought out all these particular aspects. But the moment they were in a hurry, that's what I'm saying. A dry run, you do it, you see the issues, you correct them, you again try to implement it until you are sure. It's like vaccines. You do trials until you are sure. Any vaccine that is just done without giving it ample time will give you the consequences we are getting out of the COVID vaccines. There was no time.
But I feel now with SHA, we are all guinea pigs.
Now, of course, with SHA, we reached that
Actually,
point.
no, we are not.
No, that's what I'm saying. I feel
we are
like...
not. No, we are not really. NHIF is what we call SHIF.
Yes.
The same contributors in NHIF are the same contributors who are in SHIF. The chronic, the three categories, you've heard me say this before.
Yeah.
Chronic diseases, those ones, the government was supposed to support, primary as well. But you need a certain amount of money to be able to provide this. Now, that cannot happen at inception.
Yeah,
it doesn't
exactly.
matter what you say or what you do. Okay? The other thing you must also bear in mind is this. We had the universal health that began before this government, and we piloted in 5 counties. And where Duncan is right, from 5 we should have gone to 10. From 10 we should have gone to 20. 30. At 30, you now have a very clear idea of what you need to do or what you don't need to do. So you don't even, in fact, that one you don't even need to go to 40. At 30, you know, and because there's a representative cohort of counties that you can get information from. The applying this, the application would have been a lot easier and a lot different. He's right when he says they were in a hurry. We had started well with that pilot. Even the findings of that pilot, they were made public. Nobody even talks about it.
Yes.
And yet, that is what we should have been basing all this is, because what you're calling SHA is universal health. That's what it is.
Yeah.
But somewhere along the line, that conversation died, and yet we had started on the right footing.
And it is the same thing even for in terms of this new academic model. You know,
the university funding.
No. The
CBC.
The CBC process. You still find that how can you introduce such a major change without looking at all the aspects that it will come with, the merits and the demerits? Then we are dealing with problems in real time. And you know, these are children.
Yep.
They reach a point where they don't know where are we going next. Where will, in fact, even an issue of where will junior secondary school be placed in high school. You know, you are at that point, real time, and these are children. And this is we are saying this is the future of this country. So it just tells you, when we go for quick fixes, when we don't, you know, for us is to show people that we have brought something new. It's not that everything new is good. And that's why I'm saying they should take time with some of these things. Like now, if we rush them and say, within this year, you must show Kenyans what you have done. Let me tell you, they'll give us these quick fixes, which will still land us into more problems. Government, let them do what they need, they can do with the resources that they have, which is correct, without looking at political expediency of 2027. But unfortunately, it will be very difficult to sell that. If I was an advisor of government and I tell them that I would actually be sacked. Unfortunately, even this government advises itself or advises the advisors how to advise them. So to that extent, it becomes difficult for it. We may say it here hypothetically, this is, you know, utopia, what we want. But the reality is that to a politician, the issue of getting retaining power is so central, is a matter of life and death to them, and these other things do not make sense. So they say, like Kenyans, they believe Kenyans are gullible. We'll come, we'll give them money, we'll do 1, 2, 3. At that point, they make decisions, we deal with it. And that's what I'm saying. The only hope is Gen Z, because the previous generation, that used to work. But with the Gen Z now...
By previous, you mean them?
I don't want to point fingers. You're the one who has pointed, but I think you're pointing in the right direction.
You do know I'm actually here, and I'm sitting here, and I can actually hear you.
I'm saying them, like now you represent them. But I don't mean City Muga.
Of course you mean City Muga.
City Muga is woke.
Somebody else sitting here except me.
City Muga is woke.
Is woke.
Unacheki.
Very woke.
Lakini sasa kuna wase wengine hiyo mbogi yao kidogo.
You know what you're doing is what was Swahili say unanipaka siagi.
Na umekubali kupakika.
Yeah. But you mean that generation?
Yes. Okay. And that's why I'm saying the solution, if we don't get it right now, I think we'll have another almost 30 years, and those are several elections down the line, almost 6, for us to again get it
recover,
right. But if we get it right, let me tell you, even the next president will not come in and assume, because this person will know that these people will hold me to account. They have work every decision, and not only the president, like City says, in his team.
Yeah.
Because we may not be able to actually interrogate all of them. And this president, once appointed, can choose. In our constitution, we actually said we do not want politicians as part of the CSs.
I think if, like City was putting it, if I was to know who City Maraga is going to be running with, maybe who he prefers to be his CS for finance and education and Nini, I think at one point, not even easier, I think some of them might actually mess his campaign. Because let's assume he decides to choose you as a CS Interior. So you're there, you're campaigning alongside him.
I will add value so much.
Of course. But sasa kuna vitu zako zingine zinaweza tokezea.
Yes.
And because of your issues, I start looking at Maraga differently.
But that's why he must choose carefully and not give him that CS job.
I would rather have faith in, because now we want Maraga to campaign, okay? And of course we're using Maraga as an example. But I want this candidate to campaign devoid of easy shenanigans zingine, so that now when he's because I've trusted his judgment, so that when he says Duncan Okach is now the minister for interior, I'll be like, okay, let's see how he performs. Lakini hapa mkikimbia naye all 22 of you.
No, it's not running with 22 people. My friend.
Yes.
You and your deputy are the ones who are going to be elected, not the other people.
Yeah.
All right? The understanding of the people you want to work with is often seen ahead of time. We see them, they are part of your party, we see them. And even the money bags, the people who come with money and want to, we see them. It's not that we don't know them. I'm simply saying the team must be known. As someone campaigns, we must see this group around him. They're not campaigning with him.
You're talking about now, okay. His associates.
Yes, the people who are part of his campaign team. These are the people who are likely to do this. Are these people we can trust?
Okay. I think I had misunderstood you.
No. You can't campaign with 22 people.
Yeah.
That election will be lost even before you've begun.
Yeah, that one.
Speaking of which, yes, we've come to the end. Yes.
It's not only about the election being lost at that particular point. The issue is that at the point where you want to campaign, people entrust you, and like you have said, I trust that judgment. He has a right to make a mistake, and the only issue is how do you deal with those issues and correct. But thereafter, if you don't correct, that's what I'm saying, the people have the scorecard through their voting rights to come and correct you, change you, or even now give you another term with conditions. The power always remains with you as a Kenyan, but it can only remain if the system in terms of the IBC is infallible. If we start from a point where IBC has issues, like now, as I finish, and maybe this is a topic for another day,
20 seconds,
it will be impossible, let me tell you, for IBC to actually give us credible elections. And it will be unfair for us to expect them to do so. No election is perfect, but at least you prepare for at least a level of presentability, perfectionist in a way, credibility. But right now, there are so many factors, what CT has said, multifaceted, aspects, which work against the expectation of a fair and credible election as we speak.
Thank you so much, Mr. Duncan Okach. He is a lawyer. And that brings us to the end of the show today. Thank you also, CT, for the insight and for accepting to be the punching bag for your generation. We're going to be doing this again tomorrow, same time, from 6 a.m. all the way till 10. But right now, though, news ndio hii na Winnie Maganga.
It's 10:01.